Chapter 34. The Yunjiao Lake was quiet. The players hiding in the bushes didn't dare to move. The two players beside Gu Fei were staring at the strange smile on Gu Fei's face. "Qianli, I apologize for offending you just now," Gu Fei said to the two players. The two players looked at each other. "I'm Fei Lian," the player on the left said. "I'm Emergence," the player on the right said. "Nice to meet you." Gu Fei extended his hand to shake the two players' hands. The two players didn't know each other, so it was only natural for them to greet each other. The bushes rustled as the three players greeted each other. From afar, it looked extremely impure. June Rain, who was hiding behind a wooden pillar, couldn't help but ask curiously, "What are you three doing? Don't fight." "It's fine, we're fine. Why are you still fighting at a time like this?" Emergence shouted as he waved his hand at June Rain. It was just that this arm was raised too high, like a lamp guiding the way. With its soot sound, another arrow came flying over. Emergence touched the arrow stuck in his waist and looked at his health bar. "I'm dead," he said, but he really did die. "Get out of here!" Gu Fei yelled at Fei Lian. "Why are you cursing me?" Fei Lian asked in confusion. He only realized what was going on when he saw Gu Fei quickly roll to the side. He hurriedly dodged to the side as well, but his reaction was a bit too slow. The arrow whistled through the air and hit his right arm. That wasn't the end of it. A few more arrows landed in the bushes that the two players were no longer in. Gu Fei didn't move. He tilted his head slightly and asked, "Are you all right?" He had already seen the damage from the sniper. The two players who were hit were instantly killed. "I'm fine," Fei Lian replied through gritted teeth. "That wasn't a sniper shot, so the damage wasn't that high." "Why isn't he using it?" Gu Fei asked. "Sniper skills have a long cooldown, so there's no way he could fire 2 arrows in a row," Fei Lian said. "You know quite well," said Gu Fei. "I'm an archer as well," Fei Lian replied. "Oh, then you should snipe him too," Gu Fei said. "I'm not even level 30 yet," Fei Lian said regretfully. Gu Fei could only sigh. Also, Fei Lian was not finished yet. "Judging from the arrow that he shot at me, I can tell that his damage is very high. His equipment should be top tier." A level 30 player with a full set of exquisite equipment. This was the strongest form in the game right now. It seemed that he had encountered a troublesome enemy today. Gu Fei stole a glance at the hillside in the distance. Other than the sudden arrow, Gu Fei had seen the subsequent attacks. Although the arrows were fast, they were not as fast as Gu Fei's eyes. However, it was precisely because he could see clearly that Gu Fei understood that the sniper not only had a longer range, but also a faster rate of fire than a normal attack. Moreover, the player's normal attacks had all reached him, which meant that he was not hiding within the maximum range of the sniper. A close-range attack was even more difficult to dodge. If it was a normal attack, Gu Fei was confident that he could dodge it. However, if it was a sniper, Gu Fei shook his head. "What's the cooldown for sniper?" Gu Fei asked Fei Lian. "According to the official website, it's 45 seconds, Fei Lian replied. "However, it's hard to say when it comes to an individual. I wonder if he has any equipment that can shorten the cooldown. There are rumors that increasing one's stamina can shorten the cooldown of a skill." 45 seconds? Gu Fei muttered. It had already been 45 seconds since the last sniper had fired. If he revealed himself now, he would definitely be killed in one shot. However, Gu Fei needed this arrow. He needed to see the arrow to determine the player's exact location. Only by knowing the opponent's target would he be able to deduce the opponent's location from the trajectory of the arrow. Deduce the opponent's location by listening to the wind? That would only allow him to deduce north, south, east, and west. Right now, what Gu Fei needed was a precise location. Little Rain. Gu Fei added June's Rain as a friend and sent her a private message. "What?" Little Rain replied. "What's your defense?" Gu Fei asked. "Why do you ask?" Little Rain reported. Gu Fei didn't reply. Instead, he turned to Fei Lian and asked, "What's the damage of that normal attack?" Fei Lian checked his own injuries and reported the number of injuries he had sustained. Then he asked, "Why do you ask? How much damage does sniper damage increase?" Gu Fei asked. The initial damage is double that of normal attacks. Apart from that, there's also a critical rate, Fei Lian replied. Critical rate? It ignores defense and deducts a percentage of the target's HP. Sniper has a 10% critical rate and a 10% critical rate at the start. I don't know how much the effect will increase after I increase my proficiency, Fei Lian explained. Gu Fei furrowed his brows. He had forgotten that every skill had a certain level of proficiency. In other words, without knowing the opponent's skill proficiency, it was impossible to accurately calculate the opponent's attack's damage. If he were to calculate it based on the highest proficiency. Unfortunately, the parallel world had only just been created, and the official data was only at the beginner level. No player had reached the high proficiency level yet, so Fei Lian naturally didn't know about it. Little Rain, how much HP do you have? Gu Fei asked. After receiving the data, he did a quick calculation and sighed. It seemed like Little Rain's equipment wasn't very high quality. If the enemy's sniper had a critical effect, Little Rain would definitely die. If not, she would still be alive. However, if the enemy's proficiency level was higher and the damage was increased by more than 100%, Little Rain would definitely die. What? You want to block his arrow? Fei Lian guessed Gu Fei's intentions. I'm not blocking it. She's blocking it, Gu Fei said. And then? Fei Lian asked. And then? And then we'll know where he is. Then we'll finish him off, Gu Fei said. Fei Lian stared at Gu Fei in disbelief. From his tone, it sounded like he could easily finish off the archer if he knew where he was. Didn't he tell him that the archer was a level 30 archer with top-tier equipment? Furthermore, you still have to get close to him. Your sorcerer's range is much lower than an archer's, right? If there's even the slightest movement, he'll shoot an arrow at you. Can you even dodge him? Fei Lian asked. Gu Fei smiled. When there's a slightest movement? Fei Lian was confused. Gu Fei wasn't in a hurry to explain. Little Rain was still urging him on. Why are you asking me about my defense? Why are you asking me about my HP? It's like this. Gu Fei explained. I've calculated his damage. With your defense and HP, there's a 90% chance that you'll be able to survive a single shot from him, and a 10% chance that you'll be killed instantly. Oh, then I'll just rush up and kill him. He can't kill me instantly anyways. I'll just go up and kill him with my axe, Little Rain said. How are you going to get close? If you're not dead, then he'll shoot you again and you'll be dead too, Gu Fei said, wiping away his sweat. That's right. Little Rain said. Then what do we do? You attract his attention, and I'll take the opportunity to sneak around and attack him from the other side, Gu Fei said. You're despicable, Little Rain said. Despicable? This is a tactic, a diversion, understand? Gu Fei said. Then what if I get killed instantly? Little Rain asked. Gu Fei was afraid of this question, so he said embarrassedly, then I know his position. I'll go up and avenge you. All right. Let's do that, Little Rain replied. This girl was really simple. If it was anyone else, they would definitely question Gu Fei. How could a mere mage have the confidence to kill a level 30 archer? Gu Fei had been having a headache trying to convince others, but who knew that it would be so easy for him to deal with Little Rain? When I say yes, get up, Gu Fei said. Understood. The surroundings were once again quiet. Gu Fei lay quietly on the grass, waiting for an opportunity. Fei Lian obviously didn't know that Gu Fei and Little Rain had already discussed their tactics. He whistled at Gu Fei, and Gu Fei turned his head to look at him. What are you going to do? Fei Lian asked. Just lie there obediently, Gu Fei said with a smile. At this moment, the calm surface of the lake suddenly rippled. The mountain wind that would blow from time to time suddenly blew, blowing from the surface of the lake to the shore. The dense grass began to shake under the wind. Get up! Gu Fei sent a message to Little Rain. Little Rain stood up, and the sound of an arrow whistled through the air. Although Xiao Yu quickly wanted to shrink her body back, she was still unable to dodge. She was different from Gu Fei and Fei Lian. She was hiding behind the tree stump, and her opponents knew exactly where she was, so they were always ready to attack. She. Fei Lian turned his head and shouted at Gu Fei, Huh? Where is she? Gu Fei, who was not far from him, had already disappeared. All that was left was a piece of grass that swayed in the wind. Fei Lian suddenly understood what Gu Fei meant when he said to take advantage of the wind. Only when he moved would his opponent not be able to determine his position. However, he could have used this opportunity to escape. Why would he challenge a level 30 archer? Fei Lian's gaze finally fell on Little Rain. It seemed that Little Rain was not unlucky enough to activate the 10% chance. The shot did not kill her instantly, and she hid behind the tree stump again. Fei Lian thought to himself. They could have taken advantage of the wind to crawl away, but there was nothing around the tree stump. The warrior could not use this method. Gu Fei wanted to kill the archer because he wanted to help the warrior escape. However, on one hand, he wanted to help the warrior escape, but on the other hand, he wanted the warrior to be bait. Wasn't this person a little too contradictory? The conflicted Gu Fei had already circled around to the back of the hill. He had seen the arrow clearly and determined the opponent's position. At the same time, he saw that Little Rain was not dead, which made him feel very relieved. Right now, all he had to do was get close to the guy who shot the arrow and kill him. Gu Fei could already see the moving figure in the forest at the top of the hill. This guy actually knew how to change his position after shooting. How cunning! Unfortunately, the more cunning guy had already circled behind him. Chapter 35. The archer who did the sneak attack looked like a thief, and he was very sneaky. When everyone heard about the treasure chest, they simply followed behind Gu Fei and Jun Rain. Only this guy occupied a high vantage point and watched from afar, waiting for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. This was not to Gu Fei's liking. To deal with such a character, Gu Fei's plan was to give him a taste of his own medicine. He would personally sneak attack him and let him know what it felt like to be attacked. The wind hadn't stopped yet, and the rustling of the grass completely covered the sound of Gu Fei's footsteps. Gu Fei lowered his body and slowly advanced through the grass, his eyes fixed on the archer's silhouette. The archer jogged along the hilltop, changed his position, and then immediately nocked an arrow and stood there motionlessly. Not bad at all. Gu Fei praised him in his heart. He was as quiet as a virgin. But this was for the best. If it was someone else who wasn't professional and kept looking around, Gu Fei would be afraid of being discovered. And so, with the sound of the wind, Gu Fei approached the archer step by step, and finally arrived behind him. The archer didn't seem to notice him at all, and continued to stare at the hillside. Gu Fei looked in the direction that the archer was looking at, and saw the wooden stump with the treasure chest, as well as the grass that he and Fei Lian had been hiding in. The corner of Gu Fei's mouth curled into a smile, and he raised his magic staff high in the air, and swung it down. The sound of the wind was too strange, and the archer finally noticed it. But before he could turn his head, the magic staff had already struck the artery in his neck. There was an acupuncture point on the carotid artery, so it didn't take much strength to knock someone unconscious. The game simulation was very realistic, but the attack in the game was calculated based on the character's data. Gu Fei believed that his attack power wasn't enough to knock someone unconscious, so as soon as the stick came down, he immediately followed it up with a kick. He wanted to kick this person down and beat him until he couldn't get back up. Unexpectedly, there was a hillside in front of the man. He heard the sound and turned around, but he was kicked. His body tilted and fell to the ground. Then he used the momentum to roll down the hill. Along the way, Gu Fei was worried that this guy would have turned into an idiot by the time he rolled down the hill. However, looking at his current momentum, what was more worrisome was that if they didn't stop him, he would just roll into the lake. He quickly opened his friend list and sent a message to Xiao Yu. "He's coming. Catch him." "Who is it?" Xiao Yu asked. "The enemy who shot you," Gu Fei said. Following that, little Yu popped her head out from behind the wooden pillar. Gu Fei waved at her, but when he saw that she did not respond, he quickly sent another message. "Just stand there and wait. We'll be there soon." As he spoke, Gu Fei also hurried down the hill. Little Yu stood next to the wooden pillar and raised her head. Sure enough, not long after, she saw something roll down. Could this be the person that Gu Fei was talking about? Little Yu calmed herself down and looked at the thing. After confirming that it was a person, she jumped over and raised her leg. She stepped on the person and sent a message to Gu Fei. "Got it?" The person who was stepped on didn't react at all. It seemed that he had already fainted after hitting his head on the tree. Okay, Gu Fei replied as he hurried over. Little Yu was looking in his direction. When she saw another thing roll towards her, she was shocked. There's another one. She had just been hit by a sniper. Although she had rested behind the wooden pillar for a while, her HP recovery was limited. Now that she had encountered another enemy, she was a bit lacking in confidence. Fei Lian saw that there was movement here and had already come out from the bushes. Little Yu saw that there was help. She didn't care who it was and immediately shouted, "Hurry, there's someone else." The Fei Lian was naturally shocked. He quickly drew his bow and charged over. When he looked up, he saw a figure riding a horse towards him from the hillside. The figure raised his bow and fired an arrow. Gu Fei was already close enough to see the two people's faces. He was just about to greet them when the light in the forest was dim and they didn't recognize him. The Fei Lian raised his bow and fired an arrow at him. Gu Fei quickly dodged and caught the arrow. He said angrily, "It's me." Little Yu recognized Gu Fei's voice and quickly stopped the Fei Lian. "Don't shoot. He's one of us." The Fei Lian didn't even have the intention to shoot a second arrow. He didn't expect his opponent to catch it with his bare hands. He was still in a daze. Gu Fei rushed out of the forest and returned the arrow to the Fei Lian. He smiled at them and said, "It's fine now." The Fei Lian caught it in a daze. He didn't know what to do. Little Yu didn't notice these details at all. She happily yelled, "Treasure chest, treasure chest." She then hugged the treasure chest and said, "Our quest is finally complete." Quest? The Fei Lian was confused. That's right. Our guild quest is to reclaim the treasure chest that was stolen. Little Yu raised the treasure chest high in the air. The Fei Lian's face fell. If he had known that it was a quest item, he wouldn't have tried to steal it. Then he remembered that he didn't come here with good intentions. It was only because of the sudden appearance of this archer that he ended up standing with these two people. Now that the problem has been solved, the Fei Lian couldn't help but take a step back. However, Gu Fei clearly didn't take it to heart. Little Yu was too careless and had long forgotten about it. As a result, the two of them didn't even pay attention to his existence. The Fei Lian let out a sigh of relief when he saw that the two of them weren't hostile towards him. His eyes began to wander around the person under Little Yu's feet. This person was an archer. An archer with exquisite equipment. Coincidentally, the Fei Lian was an archer. The Fei Lian gulped. "Fei Lian, aren't you an archer? Look at this guy's equipment. Can you use it?" Gu Fei said. "What?" The Fei Lian was shocked. Did he hear wrong? Even though these two weren't archers, this was still exquisite equipment. They could sell it on the market and buy the exquisite equipment they needed for their classes. It would be the same. The Fei Lian looked at Gu Fei, then at Little Yu. However, the two of them ignored him. Little Yu was holding the treasure chest and studying it. She tried to open it, but she couldn't. "Why can't I open it?" Little Yu complained as she smashed the chest against the wooden pillar. "Don't smash it, don't smash it. Let me see." Gu Fei also went over to study the chest. The Fei Lian was petrified. Did these two not care about exquisite equipment at all? Were they going to give it all to him? The archer on the ground had long since been kicked to the side by Little Yu. The Fei Lian carefully crouched down and approached the two. They were still studying the chest. The Fei Lian finally relaxed. He flipped the person on the ground over and reached for the bow in his hand. "It's probably a quest item. It's a chest that can't be opened." Gu Fei couldn't find any mechanism in the chest. He turned around and saw the Fei Lian flipping the person over. "Wait," Gu Fei said. "I knew it." The Fei Lian was furious. "He should have said so earlier if he didn't want to give it to me. Why did he have to make himself happy first, and then disappoint him? This guy was just trying to torture me. I thought he was being magnanimous." The Fei Lian was very unhappy. However, the loot belonged to the Fei Lian, so he had nothing to say. He could only retreat to the side with a dark expression. "I know this person?" Gu Fei smiled bitterly. "Huh." The Fei Lian was shocked. "Yutian Shenming," Gu Fei said. "This name sounds familiar." Fei Lian was a veteran player as well. "He used to play as a mage," Gu Fei said. Yes. The Fei Lian nodded. There was someone like that. It's him? Gu Fei nodded. Let's wake him up first. Little Yu, carry him to the river, Gu Fei said. Why aren't you carrying him? Little Yu was still studying the chest. I can't carry him. Gu Fei smiled bitterly. Gu Fei felt humiliated when he said that. It's a game. Gu Fei comforted himself. I'll do it. Xiao Yu walked over complacently, lifting Imperial Heaven Shenming up with one hand, and asked while walking, You said you know this person? Why was this lass's train of thought always half a beat too slow? Gu Fei nodded as he thought about it. Then why did he shoot us? Little Yu said, There might be a misunderstanding. Let's wake him up first. As Gu Fei said this, the three of them reached the lake. Little Yu threw Yu Tian Shenming to the ground. Gu Fei scooped up some water and splashed it on his face. The Fei Lian finally realized something. Yu Tian Shenming was unconscious. How did Gu Fei do it? There were no skills that could cause a dizzy state. Even if there were, the dizzy state in the game was different from the dizzy state in humans. The dizzy state was just a system that immobilized the character. After splashing the water, Yu Tian Shenming finally woke up. He slowly opened his eyes and suddenly came back to his senses. He rolled on the ground and began to knock his bow. The water that had flowed into his nostrils came into play, causing him to sneeze a few times. Don't bother, it's me, Gu Fei said. Qianli. Yu Tian Shenming recognized Gu Fei as well. What's going on? He put away his bow and stood up. He touched the bumps on his head and his neck where Gu Fei had hit him. The pain was still there. Was it sap? There's already a level 36 thief. Yu Tian Shenming was shocked. Players like him had been grinding day and night, but he still hadn't reached level 31. Now that a level 36 character had appeared out of nowhere, how was he supposed to deal with it? Ahem. Gu Fei coughed. He didn't answer the question. Instead, he asked, What are you doing here? I'm doing a quest to protect the treasure chest. As he said this, he saw the treasure chest in Little Yu's hands and smiled bitterly. Why are you hugging it? It's a quest item. There's nothing inside. Only the players who received the quest to retrieve the treasure chest can use it. However, Little Yu didn't put it down. Instead, she hugged it even tighter. Could it be that you guys? Yu Tian Shenming was stunned. What's going on? The quest in this game is to lure two groups of players to kill each other? Although Gu Fei didn't have much experience with online games, he knew that there were no quests in online games that forced players to kill each other. As soon as Gu Fei finished speaking, Little Yu cried out, Sister July and Sister Luoluo are all dead. Chapter 36. It started to drizzle in Cloud City again. Gu Fei and Xiao Yu rushed to Amethyst's office. Xiao Yu was still hugging her treasure chest tightly. Of course, Imperial Sky Shenming was not willing to let them have the treasure chest so easily, but the problem was that Xiao Yu was less than 10 centimeters away from him. He was an archer who needed to increase the distance between them to have an advantage, while Xiao Yu was a warrior whose explosive power increased the closer she was to you. The only way to widen the distance was to the left, right, or back. At that time, Yu Tian Shenming had Gu Fei on his left and Fei Lian on his right. Behind him was the bottomless cloud suburb lake. More importantly, the treasure chest wasn't in his hands at that time. In the end, everyone went their separate ways. The treasure chest was still in the hands of whoever had it. All of them seemed to have a tacit understanding to forget about this matter. In Amethyst's office, the oppressive atmosphere made Gu Fei feel like he couldn't breathe. Once again, he walked to the window and casually pushed open the two windows. The girls didn't look happy at all. They didn't feel any better just because Xiao Yu brought back the treasure chest. This was because the blow they suffered was too great. Of the 7 teams that went out, apart from Gu Fei and Xiao Yu's team, the others were all annihilated. Xiao Yu only called out July and Luoluo, but that was just to pick out the representative characters. It was heartbreaking to suffer such a heavy blow on their first guild mission. Gu Fei could also understand a little bit of their thoughts. For a long time, male players dominated the game, while female players were mostly like flower vases. These girls gathered together to prove something, but unfortunately, they didn't get off to a good start. After being depressed for so long, it was about time for someone to explode. Gu Fei thought. For example, despicable. The first to explode was just as Gu Fei expected. It was the Grandmaster of Combat called fiercely. He got up and kicked a chair away, slammed the table, and started cursing, "If you're so good, come at me with real weapons. What's the point of sneaking up on me?" After cursing for almost 10 minutes, Gu Fei had a rough idea of what was going on. This girl was killed by a thief who had sneaked up behind her and stabbed her in the back. She didn't even know what the other party looked like, and she was now strongly criticizing the other party for not being honorable. In this regard, Gu Fei, who had just carried out a sneak attack, could only snort in disdain. He also preferred to fight face to face, but he didn't despise sneak attacks like fiercely did. He even felt that sneak attacks were a higher level of knowledge. Not only did he have to study the opponent's mentality, but he also had to grasp the timing of the attack, and at the same time, he had to make a fatal strike. Compared to defeating the opponent face to face, launching a sneak attack to deal a fatal blow required more skill. Fiercely's outburst stirred up the emotions of the girls, and a lively discussion began. Gu Fei spent a lot of effort to search for useful information, but the word he heard the most was instant kill. Of the 12 girls that went out, 11 were insta-killed, and the other one was insta-killed. The reason was that the warrior's whirlwind slash wasn't aimed at her, and she wanted to rush forward to be in the same boat as her sister. In the end, she was killed. Next to instant kill, a few high-frequency words appeared: backstab, whirlwind slash, and snipe. Although the levels of the girls weren't high, it wasn't easy for them to kill a player in an instant. Combined with the Yutian Shinming that he and Little Rain had encountered, 3 names appeared in Gu Fei's mind corresponding to these 3 high-frequency words: Sword Demon, Unscathed in Battle, Yutian Shinming. Yutian Shinming could easily insta-kill normal characters, so Sword Demon and Unscathed in Battle could only be stronger than him. Originally, with the appearance of the Sword Demon, it was definitely easy to describe him verbally, but because the thief had hidden in ambush and launched backstab, the girls that died to him had no idea what this thief looked like. Gu Fei felt a bit of a headache. If this was true, then he was stuck in the middle. Emotionally, Gu Fei was more inclined towards the mercenary group. After all, he felt that no matter what, he couldn't integrate into this all-girl guild. If it wasn't for the minimum number of people, Gu Fei would have left a long time ago. However, from a logical point of view, it wasn't clear who was right and who was wrong in this matter. It was completely the system's quest design that threw both sides on opposite sides. It seemed that the system should have issued 2 quests at the same time. On one hand, it required the guild to snatch back the treasure chest, and on the other hand, it issued a quest to protect the treasure chest. And Gu Fei had hit the jackpot. The 2 sides that received this quest just happened to be the 2 teams that he was mingling with. However, right now it was just a guess. Whether it was them or not, he still had to find out. Saying this, Gu Fei suddenly stood up. "I remembered something, I'll be leaving for a bit." G. The girls continued to discuss. No one paid attention to Gu Fei, and no one heard him speak. Gu Fei laughed self-deprecatingly, turned around and walked out. "Where are you going?" someone suddenly asked. Gu Fei turned around and saw that it was Little Rain calling him. His heart warmed. As expected of someone who had just gone through life and death with him. This girl might be stupid, but she's still a brother. She still remembers me. After thinking about it, he smiled faintly and said, "I remembered something, I'll be leaving for a bit." After saying that, he pulled the door open and left the guild. Only then did the girls notice that Gu Fei had left. Only then did they remember that Gu Fei and Little Rain actually came back with a chest. They quickly surrounded Little Rain and asked all sorts of questions. After leaving the guild, Gu Fei opened his friends list and saw that the 5 guys from the mercenary group were all there. Gu Fei remembered that since the day he met Sword Demon, he had never seen Sword Demon not online. An expert was an expert. Naturally, among the 5 people, Gu Fei was relatively familiar with Sword Demon. If he wanted to understand the situation, he naturally looked for him. "Where?" Gu Fei sent a message. "Little Ray Bar." Sword Demon replied. Little Ray Bar was not far from here. It was just 2 streets away. Gu Fei quickly rushed over there. After entering the door and greeting Little Ray, He went straight into the private room that they were used to. When he opened the curtain, he was immediately startled. Not only was Sword Demon there, but Han family young master and Brother Yu were also there. Qianli is here. Brother Yu and Gu Fei greeted. What a rare guest. Come and sit. Han family young master was still the first to speak. Gu Fei smiled and didn't say anything. Sword Demon moved to the side and made room for him, indicating for him to sit. Where are Wu Shang and Yu Tian? Gu Fei asked. Who knows, probably leveling. Sword Demon said. You bunch of leveling maniacs, you don't know how to enjoy life. You have to know that we play games to sublimate our lives. Our empty and lonely spirits will be perfectly restored here. This is the enjoyment of beauty. Han family young master said. Did he drink too much? Gu Fei asked Sword Demon. Sword Demon lowered his head and rubbed his temples. No, he's just like that. Gu Fei looked at Sword Demon sympathetically and continued to ask the three, Are there any quests today? Han family young master held his wine glass and smiled. Normal quests are not worth our time. What normal quests? Gu Fei immediately asked. Go to the mercenary building and see for yourself. Han family young master said. You didn't take any quests? Didn't I say that they are not worth our time? Han family young master said impatiently. Gu Fei was in a daze. If that's the case, then it wasn't a mercenary group that attacked Amethyst. Gu Fei let out a long sigh of relief. It was great that he didn't have to be stuck in the middle. As for who the attacker was, Gu Fei was indifferent to it. It was an online game. All they did was fight and kill all day long. Moreover, this was a system setting that forced the two parties together. There was no enmity or grudge between them. In the end, it was just that Amethyst wasn't as skilled and failed the quest, while the other party succeeded. If these girls still wanted to take revenge, then that was a matter for later. There was no need to think about it for now. Moreover, whether or not they would bring him to play was still a problem. Gu Fei relaxed and lifted the curtain, shouting outside, Little Ray, bring me a glass of wine. Gu Fei's joyous expression caused the other three to scratch their heads in confusion. Han family young master said unhappily, You look like you're happy that you didn't get a quest? No, it's not because of that. Gu Fei quickly said. Then what's the matter? Han family young master said, You're acting a little weird today. How so? Gu Fei asked. You don't look like you don't come without a reason. Han family young master said. No way. Gu Fei quickly said, I'm just here to sit with everyone. Gu Fei did not want to tell the truth, because it meant that he would have to tell them that he had joined the Amethyst Rebirth. Gu Fei wasn't a fireball. Mingling with a group of girls wasn't a good thing for him. It was something that was hard to talk about. What are you sitting for? We're not that close yet. Han family young master said. Damn, you're being too direct. Gu Fei was depressed. It was true that they had only known each other for less than 3 days, and this was the third time they had met. However, it was a little immature for him to be so direct. Sword Demon shook his head and said, No, he's just like this. Sword Demon, speak up if you have something to say. Han family young master slammed the table. Sword Demon shook his head again. Hey, I'm just like this. Gu Fei finally realized that something was wrong with Sword Demon. He said blankly, What's going on? Brother Yu smiled bitterly. Can't you see? They're both drunk. Damn. Gu Fei was depressed. They're both drunk. Why are you still wasting time with them? They're not letting me out. Look at them, one on the left and the other on the right. Brother Yu smiled bitterly. Gu Fei stood up. Sword Demon, Little Ray asked you to serve the drinks. Oh, coming. Sword Demon stood up and walked out, swaying. Let's go. Gu Fei shook his head at Brother Yu. That's easy. Brother Yu sighed. Great, I have something to ask you. Gu Fei and Brother Yu walked out of the private room and found a seat in the bar. Chapter 37. Han family young master's stubborn voice came from the private room. Sword Demon, if you have something to say it out loud. Sword Demon wasn't even in the private room at this time. He was lying in front of the counter and begging Little Ray, Where's the wine? Didn't you ask me to get the wine? Give me the wine. Little Ray smiled bitterly and looked at Gu Fei and Brother Yu. He knew that Sword Demon was their friend. Brother Yu wanted to get up but was stopped by Gu Fei. He looked around and saw two warriors wearing beginner's equipment at the table next to him. "Hey bro," Gu Fei called out to the two. The two turned around. "Do me a favor. Carry that guy to the back of the bar and throw him away. I'm a mage and I really don't have the strength." Gu Fei pointed at Sword Demon and said to the two warriors. The two were at a loss and didn't move. Gu Fei thought for a while and took out 2 gold coins from his pocket. "Help me." The two warriors' eyes lit up. For normal people, it didn't matter if you were a mage or not. Gold coins were beautiful things that they loved. This wasn't something that a beginner player could easily see. In fact, Gu Fei was already a rich man in the game because of the mercenary business he had done yesterday. The two warriors took the gold coins and stood up. They immediately went over to carry Sword Demon. Sword Demon was so drunk that he couldn't even straighten his back. He didn't have the slightest ability to resist and was quickly carried out of the bar by the two. After a while, the two returned and looked at Gu Fei excitedly. "Brother, is there anyone else you want to throw out?" No, thank you," Gu Fei said to the two. "Is this okay?" Brother Yu looked a little worried. "It's okay, don't worry," Gu Fei said. At this time, the song of the Han family young master came from the private room. Gu Fei immediately had the impulse to call the two little warriors back. He looks like a cultured person. He speaks like he's reciting a poem. But Gu Fei mumbled. "Looks like you don't know." Brother Yu laughed. "Han family young master. This is his new name in the game. In the previous game, his name was Drunkard." "Is that Sword Demon called Smoker?" Gu Fei said. "I think so before the Infernal Realm." Brother Yu nodded seriously. "That's true." Gu Fei was completely convinced. "Then why did you change the name?" "About that? I heard that it's because the inseparable Smoker and Drunkard duo is always used by Fujoshis as a joke. That's why the Sword Ghoul refuses to call himself Smoker when he plays Infernal Realm. In this parallel world, Gongzi simply changed the name." Brother Yu explained. Gu Fei responded with a long sigh. In the end, he asked, "What are Fujoshis?" "It's a strange creature," Brother Yu said. Gu Fei seemed to have a complicated expression. He didn't ask any more. He waved his hand at Little Ray. "Little Ray, give me 2 cups of the most expensive wine. There's no need to spend so much money, right?" Brother Yu was shocked. As an intelligence expert, he was very clear about the price of the most expensive wine. It's fine. Gu Fei waved his hand. When the wine was brought over, he asked for the price. Gu Fei sucked in a breath of cold air. "It's really expensive. Put it on the Han family young master's tab." Little Ray was stunned. "Isn't he still here?" "Put all of our table on his tab," Gu Fei said. Little Ray didn't say much. He wasn't afraid of not receiving the money. This kind of behavior of taking something without paying was considered fraud. One could complain to the system. In order to protect this very realistic business system, the system took very good measures in this aspect. In front of the system god, even the strongest player was just a paper tiger. "You're too bad." Brother Yu looked at Gu Fei and said, "You're really good at hiding your true colors. Drink." "It's a rare opportunity." Gu Fei held the cup. Brother Yu took a sip and clicked his tongue in wonder. "It's really different. It's worth it." "Yes. Especially since I don't have to pay for it." Gu Fei picked up the cup and drank it in one gulp. Little Ray, another cup. "Brother Yu, by the way, didn't you say you had something to ask me?" Brother Yu asked when he saw that Gu Fei had already picked up the second cup. He was worried that Gu Fei would soon be drunk if this continued. "Yes, there is." Gu Fei put down his glass. "In this game, would there be such a mission? It would be given to 2 people to accept it, and then both parties would stand on opposite sides, such as." Gu Fei was afraid that his explanation was not clear enough, so he wanted to give another example. Unexpectedly, Brother Yu had already nodded. "That's right, it would be like that, and this is a major feature of the parallel world. Generally speaking, guild quests that involve many people have a higher chance of receiving a 2-way quest. The chances of receiving a solo quest is lower. The content of a 2-way quest is mostly about stealing and protecting. Brother Yu's information was quite accurate. The situation of the reborn amethyst's quest was clear at a glance. But Gu Fei still had some doubts in his mind. He immediately told Brother Yu about the reborn amethyst's situation. Brother Yu laughed when he heard that. They got it wrong. The quest information they gathered from the forum was to look for the treasure chest, while the quest they received was to retrieve the treasure chest. The two quests sound similar, but the content is different. For a quest like retrieving the treasure chest, of course, no one would write a strategy because the opponent is different every time. There's no fixed strategy to follow. That makes sense. Gu Fei listened and nodded. He raised his head and downed another cup. Little Ray, drink. Can you hold your liquor well? Brother Yu was worried. Don't worry. Gu Fei smiled. I'll only drink 1 cup. I'm not like those two. Brother Yu nodded and asked, why are you concerned about this? Have you joined a guild? Of course not. Gu Fei hurriedly said. He hung out with a bunch of girls. If word got out, he would be a laughing stock. In the end, he made up a small lie. It was basically an adaptation of what happened at Yunjiao Lakeside. He described himself as the kind of guy who had nothing better to do, lying behind and watching people snatch the treasure chest. Yunjiao Lakeside. Brother Yu, the king of information, obviously knew what kind of place it was. When he heard that Gu Fei went there, he immediately smiled ambiguously. Just passing by, just passing by. Gu Fei hurriedly said. All right, I also met Yutian Shinming. He was doing some treasure chest protection quest. The last sentence was purely to change the topic. Gu Fei originally did not intend to mention Yutian Shinming. He joined a guild? I've never heard of that. Brother Yu said. His guild seems to be pretty strong. They wiped out everyone who came to steal the treasure chest. I heard that if it wasn't whirlwind slash, snipe, or concealed backstab, they all sound like experts. Gu Fei said. Oh, they aren't weak. There's probably only one guild like this in Cloud City. Brother Yu said. Which guild? Unstoppable 4 Cs? What a lame name. Brother Yu laughed. In the game, a guild with a lame name isn't 2 weeks. But think about it. With such a lame name, a lot of people would definitely think of it. If he could build it, then that means his guild was built quite early. If he built it early, then he would have a longer time to develop. He most likely won't be too weak. Brother Yu said. That makes sense. Gu Fei had learned a lot today. As the saying goes, listening to a gentleman's words is better than studying for 10 years. It seemed like he needed to talk more with Brother Yu and increase his knowledge of the game. The game wasn't life. It was better to avoid mistakes like when he tried to intercept them at the lakeside but was forced to the ground. But Gu Fei finished his 3rd cup and stood up. There's nothing else, I'm leaving. See you later. Brother Yu nodded and watched as Gu Fei left the bar. Little Ray. Brother Yu called out. What is it? Little Ray walked over. Brother Yu pointed at the wine on the table. This is the most expensive wine. Give me a bottle and I'll take it away. Little Ray was stunned for a while and finally asked, Are you putting it on Master's tab? Of course. Brother Yu had a calm smile on his face, but don't tell him I ordered it. After leaving the bar, Gu Fei returned to Amethyst. He had already understood the whole story and thought that it was necessary to go back and inform them so that they would not complain about it and not know what was going on. As a member of the guild, he had the authority to open the door of the guild. When Gu Fei pushed open the door and entered, the girls immediately turned to look at him. Their gazes were different from before. They had heard the story of Yunjiao Lakeside. It could be said that it was Gu Fei who solved the problem. However, there was a big flaw in the story. Gu Fei and the archer who ambushed him knew each other. Currently, the guild only knew 3 things about Gu Fei: high level, broken equipment, and random points. The last 2 points were enough for people to discriminate against him. It was hard to believe that such a sorcerer could defeat a level 30 archer. Now that it was said that Gu Fei knew this person, people could not help but suspect that there was something fishy going on. The fishy content was that the two of them worked together to build up Gu Fei's image so that he could gain a foothold in this girl's guild. Fiercely was the one who came up with this hypothesis. She also gave another example. How could such a trashy sorcerer have such a high level? Other than having a group of equally high-level friends who were good friends with him, was there any other way? Besides, the story was told by Xiao Yu. As for Xiao Yu's attributes, needless to say, even if there was an obvious problem, she would not have been able to see it. In addition, Xiao Yu was picked by Qianli to be in the same group as him when he was drunk. Could this also be intentional? In short, nothing could stand up to analysis, and the girls were very attentive to details. One after another, they analyzed Gu Fei, who had originally saved Xiao Yu and snatched back a treasure chest, into a shrewd, calculating super pervert. In the end, the girls were divided into 3 factions. Fiercely was the most convinced that Gu Fei was also a big bad guy with bad intentions. As for those who disagreed with the girls' wild guesses, it was July, Luo, and a few others. Xiao Yu was the only one who was completely at a loss. At this time, when Gu Fei entered the room, the members of the 3 factions all looked at him. When Gu Fei took 2 steps closer, everyone suddenly smelled a pungent smell of alcohol. Gu Fei, who already had a bad image, fell dozens of points in the hearts of the girls from the first faction. Even the girls from the second faction could not help but frown at this time. The guild's first operation had suffered a setback. Everyone was in pain, and this guy actually ran to drink. This was a bit too unkind. And Xiao Yu continued to be at a loss. What's that smell? What's that smell? Chapter 38. Gu Fei felt the resistance on the girls' faces, but he didn't think too much about it. After all, this group of girls always treated him like this. He took a few steps forward and was about to talk about the information he had gathered, but the moment he opened his mouth, he let out a merciless burp. The smell of alcohol permeated the air, and the girls let out hissing sounds as if they were avoiding the plague. Sorry. Gu Fei covered his mouth and laughed awkwardly. Okay, everyone disperse first. July clapped her hands. Sigh. Gu Fei said he still had something to say, but seeing everyone quickly fleeing, he didn't say it and only let out a deep sigh. Sigh. Do you have something to say? Luo noticed Gu Fei's expression and stopped. At this time, there were only 3 people left in the room. July was always the last to leave the guild, and Little Yu was still over there knocking on the treasure chest. This time, the guild quest we received should be the kind that goes both ways. Gu Fei told her about the situation he learned from Brother Yu. The 2 listened quietly, and July nodded. I know this, I'm not mistaken. Our quest is indeed to find the treasure chest. Gu Fei was startled. Someone is deliberately messing with us, not wanting us to complete the quest. July said, Oh, do you know who the other party is? Gu Fei asked. If you don't know, then I can tell you. This was Gu Fei's unspoken words. Unfortunately, July nodded. Unhindered. But everyone knows. Gu Fei was a little disappointed. After all, he had gone out for nothing. The other party had already found out the news. I'm afraid this matter won't end here. Qianli, you have to be careful outside in the future. July said and looked up and down at Gu Fei. Oh, you're not wearing the guild badge? That's fine, they definitely wouldn't think that there's a guy in my guild. July's smile looked very forced. What's going on? Gu Fei was puzzled. Reigning Four Seas. This guild has a conflict with us in the past. This quest is probably their revenge. So everyone be careful. July said. Oh, got it. Gu Fei glanced at Little Yu, who was still hugging the treasure chest and fiddling with it. It seemed that she wouldn't stop until she smashed that thing into pieces. Then I'll be leaving. Gu Fei bade farewell to the other 3 and left the guild. Watching Gu Fei walk out, Luo glanced at July. You're not going to tell him about that? Forget it, he doesn't need to know. He's just a temporary member, it's better not to get involved. July said. Luo was very worried. I really didn't think that there would be such a coincidence. That person was also born in Cloud City like us. July was silent for a long time, then suddenly said, Luo, in the current mercenary group, is there anyone with outstanding strength? You want to find outsiders to help? Luo was a bit surprised. July sighed. With our current situation, we really can't compete with them. Don't forget the original reason you created this guild. You just wanted to gather a few girls who also like online games to play a simple game together. Luo said. Now things have changed, haven't they? July smiled bitterly. Who would have thought that there would be such a coincidence? There are so many main cities in the game, but this guy just happened to be born in the same city as us. I'm afraid this game won't be simple again. Now that there are so many girls following me, I have to think of a way to get through this first hurdle first. Luo didn't say anything. Mercenary group? I don't think there's a mercenary group that can compete with the #1 guild in Cloud City right now. If it's not possible, then find a few more. July said. I know you're not afraid of spending money. Luo smiled bitterly. The problem is, mercenary group? I know a powerful one. Little you suddenly said. July and Luo were startled. The two were so focused on discussing that they forgot that there was a girl playing with a treasure chest next to them. Little you know? July laughed. What could this muddle-headed girl remember? I heard about it when I was doing solo quests. It's a quest to capture the bandit leader Suo Tuesday. This quest was completed by someone who asked for this mercenary group's help. Little you said seriously. July and Luo looked at each other. Capturing the bandit leader Suo Tu was currently considered to be the most difficult quest that could be received, but it was impossible to complete. Just by entering Black Dragon Cave, they had to start killing monsters that were higher level than them. Normal characters would be lucky if they could last 5 minutes. A while ago, they heard that someone gathered a large group of people to fight together. They persisted all the way until they saw the boss, but in the end, they were all slaughtered and sent back to the city. From then on, no one dared to try again. Did they complete this quest? When was it? Luo asked. Completing such a difficult quest should be big news, but she hadn't heard of it at all. I think it was yesterday. Little you replied. Oh. Luo was relieved. So it was yesterday. Then the news probably hadn't spread yet. What mercenary group is it? July began to feel that there was a chance. This mercenary group seemed to be very strong. As long as it wasn't a mercenary group raised by 4Cs, it would be fine. I forgot. Little you said. How many people? Who's the leader of the mercenary group? July asked again. Little you thought hard. Forget it. Luo laughed. Don't ask little you, I'll go ask around. Go. July's face was solemn. This mercenary group had become their biggest hope. In Cloud City, Gu Fei was strolling around while pondering over a problem. July said that there was a grudge between them and 4Cs. For them to go out of their way to mess up a small quest, this grudge must be quite serious. Looking at July's expression, it seemed that she didn't want to say too much, so Gu Fei didn't pursue the matter. The parallel world hadn't been in operation for too long, so it didn't seem to have created much hatred. This grudge must have happened in the game, or maybe it happened in real life. Gu Fei wanted to ask Brother Yu again, but he remembered that he had just asked him a few minutes ago. If he went back in the blink of an eye, he would be a bit embarrassed, so he held back. Thinking about how July and the others gathered information, Gu Fei felt that he needed to learn it, so he left the game. After logging into the search website, Gu Fei didn't know where to start. He typed in July, and the search results were obvious. Then he accidentally typed in Lualua's name, Heartless Fallen Flowers, and a novel-like experience in the game appeared before Gu Fei's eyes. In this story, Heartless Fallen Flowers was just a side character, a person who did odd jobs in the main plot. There were two main characters. One was July Wildfire, and the other was called Non-Smiler. Non-Smiler actually loved to laugh. The opening of the novel shocked Gu Fei, and he couldn't help but feel that writers nowadays were too talented. Gu Fei wasn't here to appreciate novels, so after a quick browse, he understood the whole story. This was a story of love and hate, lies and truth, deceiving and being deceived. It was a very common story. In the story, July was passionate and generous, but in the end, she was deceived by Non-Smiler and left with nothing. Gu Fei really wondered if this was the calm and collected guild leader July he knew. But the climax of the story didn't end there. After July left the game, another character appeared out of nowhere, using even better methods to deceive Non-Smiler. Rumor had it that this was July Wildfire's rebirth, returning in a more advanced form to take revenge. Non-Smiler, who was filled with hatred, finally chose to leave. After all, it was an online game, and the story ended there. But now, in the parallel world, it seemed like a new chapter had to be written. Gu Fei guessed that the person July had a grudge with was this non-Smiler. In the game, Luo Luo left the guild and came to the tavern for solo quests. There were many types of quests in the parallel world, like the ones that could be randomly picked up on the street. These were called NPC story quests. Once done once, there wouldn't be a second time, and the rewards were more generous. The solo quests that players were talking about were the quests that were refreshed by the tavern's system every hour for players to pick up. These quests were limited, first come, first served, but players were allowed to pick them up repeatedly. Using quests to gain experience mainly relied on these solo quests. The quest to capture the bandit leader Su Tu was also refreshed here, and was known as the most difficult solo quest at the moment. It was always easier for girls to get information. Luo Luo casually asked a few players, but their reactions were the same as when Luo Luo first heard about it. They were very surprised that a mercenary group could complete the quest to capture the bandit leader Su Tuesday. It seemed that only one day had passed, and the news hadn't spread. Luo Luo thought as she left the tavern and came to the mercenary building. There were two halls in the mercenary building. The East Hall was where the system released mercenary quests. Most mercenary groups would pick up quests here. The West Hall, on the other hand, was where players sought help. This was the place that reflected the true nature of a mercenary group, taking money and helping people get rid of disasters. Professional mercenary groups would pick up quests here. And the place where one could directly see the strength of each mercenary group was the records of the two halls. Luo Luo came to the records of the West Hall and patiently flipped through it. Finally, in the completed quests, Luo Luo found the words, "Capture the bandit leader Su Tu." A mage received this quest, but was unable to complete it, so he went to the mercenary building to ask for help at a high price. The date was yesterday. The mercenary group that accepted this quest was... Luo Luo swiped her index finger across the records and found the information she needed. Child Elite Group. Mercenary Leader, Han Family Young Master. Chapter 39. Han Family Young Master. Luo Luo mumbled this name. Most experts wouldn't easily change their ID no matter what game they played. This wasn't a habit that only experts had. Many normal players had this preference too. A famous ID would have a lot of rallying power, and this was a huge intangible asset in the game, especially when organizing a guild or a mercenary group. Hearing Little Rain talk about such a powerful mercenary group, Luo Luo started to wonder if this group was created by some expert in the game. Han Family Young Master wasn't a legendary expert's ID, but it wasn't the first time Luo Luo had seen it. On the official cleric experience leaderboards, it was a very high name. Luo Luo, who was also a cleric, obviously noticed it. As she continued to search for information in the record book, Luo Luo noticed a line of words. In the description of this quest, there was a final evaluation of the mercenary group by the player who issued the quest. There was only one sentence: Strongest Mage. Strongest Mage. On the current level leaderboards, the number 1 mage was called Drifting. However, in this parallel world where leveling up required a lot of experience, it wasn't realistic to rely on leveling up to gain an advantage. Equipment and skill proficiency were factors that reflected strength. Therefore, the so-called strongest mage might not be Drifting, who had the highest level. There was no point in guessing, so Luo Luo decided to contact this mercenary group first. She opened up her friends list and searched for Han Family Young Master. Seeing that he was online, Luo Luo immediately added him as a friend. "Hello." Luo Luo sent a message. After about half a minute, the other party replied, "Okay." "Child Elite Group?" Luo Luo asked. "That's right. I have something to ask of you. Can we talk face to face?" Luo Luo asked. "Little Ray's bar." "Okay, I'll be there soon." Luo Luo happily closed the chat window. The Han Family Young Master's neat and tidy writing style left a good impression on her. In her opinion, a person who spoke in such a simple and straightforward manner would definitely not procrastinate when it came to handling matters. Little Ray's bar was famous. Although Luoluo had never been there, she knew where it was. After crossing a few streets, he arrived at the back of Little Ray's bar. In this deserted alley, there was a person lying on the ground. Luoluo hurriedly walked forward. A strong smell of alcohol permeated the air. This person was snoring and sleeping soundly. It turned out that he had drunk too much. Luoluo frowned and ignored him. She took a detour and entered Little Ray's bar. The enthusiastic Little Ray immediately greeted her. "Miss, what would you like to order?" "Oh, I'm looking for someone," Luoluo said. "Who are you looking for?" Little Ray was still enthusiastic. "Han family young master," Luoluo answered. At the same time, she looked at the legendary Little Ray strangely. Could it be that he knew all the guests in the bar? However, Little Ray pointed to a private room with a smile. "Over there." "Oh, thank you." Luoluo was a little absent-minded. She thanked him and walked to the private room over there. Raising her hand to lift the curtain hanging on the door frame, Luoluo saw a person sitting inside. The Han family young master's fairy-like appearance would amaze anyone who saw it. Luoluo couldn't help but be stunned for a moment before she asked, "Han family young master? Heartless falling flowers?" Han family young master asked. Luoluo nodded. "Have a seat." Han family young master gestured and then shouted towards the door, "Little Ray." Little Ray answered, "What do you want?" "Put away the table. I'm going to talk business." Han family young master smiled. Little Ray quickly put away the empty glasses on the table. Luoluo only felt that it was amazing. Little Ray's bar really deserved its reputation. It actually had such a real service model. Was the waiter wiping the table in front of her really the legendary richest man in the parallel world, Little Ray? "Another glass of water," Han family young master said to Little Ray. Then he asked Luoluo, "Do you want anything?" "A glass of water too," Luoluo answered. "A pub with water." This was something that other pubs didn't have. Luoluo wanted to see what the water in this pub was like. The water was soon served. Han family young master picked it up and drank it in one gulp. Luoluo took a sip and savored it carefully. "Water is water. Nothing special." Han family young master smiled. Luoluo was a little embarrassed and put down the glass. "What's the task? Tell me. How many people are there in your mercenary group?" Luoluo wanted to know the situation first. "6 people," Han family young master answered. "So few." Luoluo was very surprised. Elite group depends on quality rather than quantity. Han family young master smiled. "Are you the ones who completed the task of the bandit leader Suatu?" Luoluo asked. Han family young master's pronunciation of us was a little light. It seemed like he didn't have much confidence. Of course, Luoluo didn't notice this little bit of emotion. She nodded and said, "Can you introduce me to you?" Han family young master didn't answer. He straightened his body and leaned back. "Why don't you tell us what your task is first? If it's not something we're interested in, then I don't think there's a need for me to introduce you." "Then what kind of task would you be interested in?" Luoluo said. "It sounds impossible," Han family young master said. "Then I'm sure you'll be satisfied with my task." Luoluo said. "Let's hear it. Help us deal with unhindered 4Cs. Luoluo said slowly. Actually, her expectations for this mercenary group weren't as high as when she first arrived. She didn't expect it to be a small mercenary group made up of 6 people. Even if the 6 of them were strong, the game was still in its infancy. No matter how strong a player was, there wouldn't be too much of a difference between them and the others. Unhindered 4Cs had killed all the girls from Reborn Amethyst. Just from the fact that they were able to do it, it was clear that they were very strong. Even the strongest player in the game couldn't compare to them. Who would have thought that Han family young master's eyebrows wouldn't even twitch after hearing the name of Unhindered 4Cs? Instead, he asked, "Is it the strongest guild in Cloud City right now?" Luoluo nodded. "They won't be any more soon." Han family young master smiled. "What do you mean?" "Because you bought my mercenary group to deal with them," Han family young master said. Luo's eyes widened. This guy in front of her, now I only need to know one thing. Han family young master said. Luoluo was a little puzzled. She felt that there were still many things to discuss. Han family young master should at least tell her about their mercenary group situation, right? At the very least, shouldn't they at least tell me about the fees they charge? However, Han family young master's only question was, how do you want me to deal with them? Luoluo was completely stunned. Her initial plan was to hire a mercenary group. If one wasn't enough, then she would hire a few more. Then she would discuss it with the girls in the guild. She believed that July had the same plan. But this guy, judging from his tone, he didn't need any external help at all. With just the 6 of them, they could deal with the strongest guild in Cloud City right now? Seeing that Luoluo was speechless, Han family young master suddenly smiled. All right, I know what to do. You know? Luoluo was stunned again. Heartless falling flower. Hee, your main goal is obviously not to laugh. Han family young master said with a smile. This Han family young master wasn't a normal player. Luoluo concluded that he was at least someone who often fought in the game. That was why he knew about the story of the non-smiler and July wildfire. However, I'm afraid it's not enough to deal with just one non-smiler. How about we clean up all the core members of Reigning the Four Seas? Han family young master asked. Then it's settled. Han family young master stood up and was ready to leave. But Luoluo called out. But that's not enough? Han family young master asked. I want to ask, how are you going to charge? Luoluo said. Let's talk about it after it's done. I'm not afraid that you won't pay. Han family young master smiled. Luoluo had an idea. Let's talk about it after it's done. Doesn't that mean there's no need to talk if it's not done? Could it be that this guy's previous boasting was just empty words? That he would reply to me after 2 days, saying that the mission couldn't be completed? I'll contact you again. Han family young master said as he walked out of the room. But looking at him, it didn't seem like he was faking it. No matter what, their mercenary group should be very powerful. The fact that they were able to complete the mission was proof. Moreover, it seemed like they had nothing to do with Reigning the Four Seas. She had to think of a way to get their help. Luoluo stared at the glass of water in front of her. Just as she was thinking, a horrible scream came from outside. Who ordered this? Luoluo stood up and lifted the curtain. She saw Han family young master yelling at the bar with the bill in his hand. Little Ray was still smiling. He calmly answered Han family young master's question, the sorcerer that was with you. This guy. Han family young master slapped the table as if that was Gu Fei. Luoluo quietly walked behind him. She took a glance at the bill and gasped. The most expensive drink in the game, 4 glasses and a bottle, cost about 200 gold coins. This was definitely a huge amount of money. Even if all the players in the tavern piled up their money bags, they might not be able to gather this amount. As expected of the strongest sorcerer. He's really something. Now, can we talk about the fee? Luoluo suddenly smiled. The young master of the Han family turned around and looked at her. He sighed deeply and said, let's talk inside. Can you introduce me to this sorcerer? Luoluo asked while walking. Don't mention him in front of me. Han family young master's eyes were filled with murderous intent. What's his name? Luoluo was persistent. Shameless is his name. Han clan's young master wouldn't say it even if he was beaten to death. Achoo! Gu Fei, who was still thinking about the past between July and wildfires, suddenly sneezed. Strange, I've been sneezing a lot recently. Gu Fei rubbed his nose and mumbled to himself. Chapter 40. Luoluo had a satisfied smile on her face as she left Little Ray's bar. Although the Han family young master did not reveal who the members of the mercenary group were, at least she knew that they were a group of powerful level 30 characters. As for the legendary strongest sorcerer, the Han family young master only said one sentence. He challenged the bandit leader, Sutu, alone. In fact, Gu Fei was able to challenge Sutu alone because of a series of coincidences. However, outsiders did not know the intricacies of the story. Just by hearing this sentence, they felt that he was stronger than ever before. Because of this, Luoluo was full of confidence in this mercenary group, especially in this legendary sorcerer. However, for some reason, the Han family young master refused to reveal the names of the members. This was the only doubt that remained in Luoluo's heart. Regardless, she had already roped in this group. She was willing to help the Han family young master pay for the sake as the price. Although she did not say that this was the cost of hiring them, it was at least a favor. The Han family young master's narcissism was too obvious. This kind of person would definitely not be willing to owe others a favor. Therefore, Luoluo was not worried that he would go back on his words. However, the final content of the mission was not to whitewash some characters. That would not solve the root of the problem. Instead, it was to ask Reigning Four Seas to stop causing trouble for reborn Amethyst. It was such a vague goal, but the Han family young master dared to agree to it. "Don't worry, I will make sure that Non-Smiler will not be able to laugh anymore," said the Han family young master to Luoluo. He did not reveal the specifics of what they were going to do. He only told Luoluo and the rest to sit back and watch the show. "I hope they can really solve everything." That was what Luoluo thought. After sending off Luoluo, the Han family young master immediately started to recruit members. He also wanted to settle the score with Gu Fei. However, when he took a look at his friend list, he realized that Gu Fei was still not online. He was furious. They soon gathered at Little Ray's bar. Sword Demon was carried back by Unscathed in battle. "Why is this guy sleeping behind the tavern?" Unscathed in battle asked. No one knew, but Brother Yu, who knew, held back his laughter. The Sword Demon was obviously drunk. After this torment, he still didn't wake up and continued to sleep soundly in the corner. "What's the mission? Tell me," Yutian Shenming said. The Han family young master gave a brief introduction. The story of July's Wildfire and Non-Smiler was a well-known story in the online gaming world. Putting Gu Fei aside, veteran players like Brother Yu had heard of it, so it was easy for them to understand the whole story. It's not hard to kill Non-Smiler. The hard part is to make sure that he doesn't dare to cause trouble for reborn Amethyst. We'll have to plan this out. Brother Yu, go find out more about Unhindered and Non-Smiler, Han family young master said. Brother Yu nodded, then looked at Yutian Shenming. "Yutian, are you in Unhindered right now?" "How did you know?" Yutian Shenming was surprised. Everyone's eyes turned to him. Now that they had to deal with Unhindered, there was actually an Unhindered in their party. "Don't look at me like that. I'm just joining a guild for fun," Yutian Shenming quickly expressed his stance. "Today at Yunjiao Lake, Brother Yu, I'm impressed." Yutian Shenming was dumbfounded, as expected of an information specialist. "How do you know everything?" Brother Yu's smile was always so calm. "What's going on?" Han family young master asked. This afternoon at Yunjiao Lake, Unhindered organized to cause trouble for reborn Amethyst. I was there and I even met Qianli. Qianli? He is with a woman, and that woman seems to be the one who was reborn into the Amethyst. Imperial Godming said. And then? And then? Don't even mention it. I heard that reborn Amethyst was a female player, but there was no other girl in that afternoon. There were so many of them. I was sniping from afar, and I couldn't deal with it. Then someone circled behind me and kicked me down the hill. I even fainted, and when I woke up, I saw Qianli. I saw that the girl knew Qianli, so I let her have the chest. Yutian Shenming explained. Who hit you? I don't know. I asked Qianli, but he said he didn't see it either, Yutian Shenming said. That's weird. She was already behind you. She could have just killed you. Why was she so kind as to spare your life? The crowd muttered. Lucky. Yutian Shenming sighed. He was quite grateful to the guy who kicked him down the hill instead of killing him. The penalty for dying in a parallel world was very heavy. Players would drop a level, and there was a chance that they would drop items from their body or their pockets. This setting was also for future players. After all, there was only one server in the game. Although the number of players was limited, as the server was upgraded, the game company would definitely think of ways to recruit more players. These new players obviously couldn't stand on the same starting line as the old players. This was a bit of a blow to the enthusiasm of the new players. Therefore, increasing the experience required to level up and increasing the penalty for dying was to prevent the old players from lagging too far behind the new players in terms of level. I heard that the people of Purple Crystal Rebirth were completely annihilated in the afternoon. So it seems that they have succeeded? Heh, the organization didn't reprimand you? Brother, you laughed. Yutian Shinming's nose immediately became crooked. These guys don't know anything. If I didn't give face to Qianli, would I have let that girl take the chest? They said I don't know how to play as an archer. Fuck, I'll leave the guild right now. Wait, don't rush. Han family young master stopped him. What is it? Yutian Shinming asked. You can stay in unhindered 4Cs for now. You might be useful in the future. Han family young master said. Spite. Yutian Shinming mumbled. Alright, that's it for now. Han family young master announced. This mission isn't like those rubbish missions from the system. Everyone pay attention and make preparations. Also, if you see Qianli online, inform him. What about him? Brother, you pointed at Sword Demon who was still snoring in the corner. Wushang, where did you find him? Han family young master asked. Behind the tavern. Unscathed in battle said. Fuck, why didn't any passers-by kill him? This trash, he can't hold his liquor so well. He doesn't look like he came from me. Get up, Sword Demon, get up. Han family young master punched Sword Demon's head twice. We'll leave first. The three couldn't bear to watch anymore and left. That day, Gu Fei didn't go online again. On the next day, he received an emergency call from Han family young master. Gu Fei guessed that he had been exposed. He jogged towards Little Ray's bar with his money bag. He was just joking with Han family young master. He didn't really want to take advantage of him. He rushed to the tavern and lifted the curtain to take a look. All 5 of them were there. Han family young master's eyes were filled with killing intent. Gu Fei felt a chill in his heart. What was the meaning of this? It was just a joke. Did they call all of them to criticize him? Touching his small money bag, Gu Fei said embarrassedly, "They're all here. We were waiting for you." Han family young master roared, "Can't you spend less time under the sun and do more meaningful things in front of the computer?" Gu Fei was speechless. What kind of logic was this? All right, let's not waste time. Sit down and listen to Brother Yu's introduction. Han family young master said. When Gu Fei heard that he didn't mention yesterday's incident, he praised him in his heart. He was a man after all. He didn't fuss over such a small matter. After sitting down, he touched Yutian Shinming beside him. What do you want to introduce? A new mission, Yutian Shinming said. Gu Fei replied. Brother Yu cleared his throat. Non-laughing, this person, what? Gu Fei shouted. Non-laughing? Everyone looked at him. I know this person, Gu Fei hurriedly said. Everyone knows him. What are you shouting for? Han family young master said. Are you afraid that people don't know that we're planning to kill him? Gu Fei hurriedly lowered his voice. Are we going to kill him? Shut up first. I'll listen to Brother Yu. Han family young master didn't mention the money for the drinks, but it was obvious that he was still very emotional towards Gu Fei. Brother Yu cleared his throat again. Non-laughing is an old ID in the online gaming world. I won't talk about his past. I'm sure everyone has heard of it. In this parallel world, non-laughing is a rogue. He's currently level 30 and is ranked 11th on the Rogue Experience leaderboard. He's one of the 4 core members of reigning the 4Cs. Apparently, he relies on strength and his equipment is unknown. Recently, his most frequent leveling spot is the Cloud City west of Cloud City's Cloud Valley. He's usually in a party with other guild members. He's never been alone. Brother Yu paused and continued. Cloud Valley. Monsters are level 40. Sword Demon, you usually grind there, right? The monsters here have high attack and low defense. It's indeed more suitable for high attack and high evasion classes like rogues. Sword Demon nodded and added. Qianli also grinds there. Brother Yu was startled and couldn't help but say, for mages, if they want to grind higher level monsters, Cloud Valley is a better place. The monsters there move slowly and have low magic defense. Mages usually grind there. Oh, I'll go take a look next time, Gu Fei said. Everyone stared blankly at Gu Fei. Brother Yu also calmed down and said, that's all we know. If we want to know more, we'll need more time. That's enough, Let's give him a show of strength. Han family young master said and took out a pile of rags from his pocket. He threw it on the table. One for each of us. What's this for? Gu Fei picked up a triangular piece. Cover your face. Han family young master said. Why are you doing this? Gu Fei was startled. This time's mission is different from last time. We're not dealing with dumb computers, but players like us. Appraisal in the game can see your level, class, and equipment, but it can't see your name. So, as long as you cover your face, you can save yourself a lot of trouble. Han family young master said. There's no need for that. The few of them were clearly conflicted. Han family young master snorted coldly. I didn't even tell my employer your names. If any of you think it's unnecessary, then don't wear it. I won't force you. But I have to remind you that as long as one of you doesn't wear it, it'll bring trouble to everyone else. I'm going to wear it. Do as you see fit. After a moment of silence, Sword Demon picked up a piece and stuffed it into his pocket. Unscathed in battle, Brother Yu and Yu Tianxinming also picked up a piece. Gu Fei hesitated again and again. In the end, he felt that he shouldn't drag others down, so he picked up a piece. Why are there 2 more pieces? Gu Fei picked up a piece and found that there were 2 more on the table. Han family young master put away the last 2 and said indifferently, 2 pieces of cloth might not be able to cover my peerless face. Damn! Everyone shouted. Okay, put the chat window on the mercenary group channel. Everyone get ready and head towards Cloud Valley. The 6 members of Young Master's elite group set off once again. Chapter 41. After leaving the tavern, the 6 of them went their separate ways. Sword Demon and Unscathed in battle said they were going to repair their equipment first. Yu Tianxinming was going to replenish his arrows, Brother Yu went directly to Cloud Valley, and Han family young master said, I don't think 2 pieces of cloth are enough, I'll go get another one. Gu Fei went to the auction hall. With dozens of gold coins in hand, Gu Fei was going to buy a suitable weapon. The original white broadsword was very suitable, but it was a pity that this broadsword was an extremely ordinary piece of equipment in the eyes of ordinary players. It was so ordinary that no one would think of selling it in the auction hall. Gu Fei searched around, but naturally he found nothing. Unlike ordinary players who chose weapons, the first thing Gu Fei paid attention to was the size, specification, weight, and so on of the weapon. These data affected Gu Fei's performance more than the attack of the weapon. Unfortunately, the search engine in the game did not have an advanced search function that could determine these data, so Gu Fei could only refer to the real thing in the exhibition hall one by one. This was undoubtedly a lot more work, so much so that in the chat window of the mercenary group, when the 5 guys said that they had arrived at Cloud Valley, Gu Fei had just found a suitable broadsword in the exhibition hall. Baptism of Fire, the attack was slightly higher than the white broadsword that Gu Fei had used before, and it also had a 30% chance of fire attack damage. This kind of weapon was probably considered useless in the eyes of ordinary players. Because in the setting of the parallel world, the magic damage of equipment would be related to the attributes of the character. The more magic the character had, the higher the magic damage. And characters who often used a broadsword, such as warriors, were born with poor magic, so the magic damage they needed was only the effect brought by magic. For example, the speed reduction brought by freezing damage, the numbness brought by electric shock damage, and so on. There was no additional effect, but the high damage of fire magic was not too valuable. Therefore, such a piece of equipment with a high magic damage rate was priced at 60 gold coins, but no one was interested. For example, the Sword Demon's exquisite dagger, Frostbite Memories, had a 10% chance of freezing. Gu Fei didn't understand so much about the game. He just felt that this weapon's attack wasn't low, and it had a high chance of being enchanted. It was an effective supplement to his low damage, so he bought it without hesitation. Qinli, how are you? When the 5 of them arrived at the valley, there was no response from Gu Fei. Therefore, the Han family young master started to ask questions. I'll be there soon. Gu Fei received the flame baptism. The blade was dark red in color, and when he held it in his hand, he felt a slight burning sensation. It was worthy of being a piece of equipment with fire magic. The only regret was that there was no scabbard for this saber. So, Gu Fei stuffed it into his pocket and hurried on his way. Along the way, facing the criticism and urging of the Han family young master, Gu Fei finally set foot on the hot land of Cloud Valley. He had spent countless days and nights here. Gu Fei was inexplicably excited and asked the 5 of them in the chat window, "I'm here. Where you guys?" With the boulder by the lake as the axis, the broken wooden house in the east is the 12 o'clock direction. I'm at 1 o'clock, Sword Demon is at 4 o'clock, Yutian is at 6 o'clock, Wushang is at 9 o'clock, and Brother Yu is at 10 o'clock. You, find a place to hide and cover your face, said the Han family young master. Gu Fei took out the cloth and tied it to his face. Gu Fei was quite familiar with this area. It was a level 40 training area, and the players were only level 30. There were very few people who could fight monsters 10 levels higher than them, so there wasn't a single person in sight. Gu Fei dove into the forest at the side and hid himself. Don't be in a hurry to act. Wait for the other party to appear and identify their roles. Then, we'll have a clear strategy and defeat them in one move, said the Han family young master. Everyone agreed. What followed was a long wait. The valley was silent. Gu Fei fiddled with his newly bought baptism of fire. He resisted the urge to rush up to the monsters and use them on them. They waited for half an hour, and a few of them couldn't sit still anymore. They questioned in the chat window, "Brother Yu, is your intel correct? Is he leveling up here?" "It's correct." Brother Yu was always confident in his information. Because of his unwavering tone, everyone waited for another 10 minutes, but there was still no one. This time, even he himself couldn't hold back anymore. "Why don't we level here for a while?" Gu Fei was eager to try out his new weapon. "Coming, someone's coming." The sword demon sent out a message. Everyone's gaze was focused on the entrance of the valley. A group of people and horses marched in majestically. "Oh, there's quite a lot of people," Yutian Shunming exclaimed. Brother Yu had already started gathering information, looking at their equipment: 2 warriors, 1 mage, 1 archer, 3 thieves, and 3 priests. "Is there anyone whose position I can use appraisal art on?" asked the young master from the Han family. The 4 shook their heads. Gu Fei's answer was unique: "I don't know, identify." Everyone, the 10 of them, had already entered the valley and arrived at the monster farming location. They got into position and were about to start training. "Is there still no one who can get close to appraise?" the Han family young master asked. "I'll try," the sword demon said. "I was waiting for you to say that," the Han family young master said. The sword demon activated stealth and approached the other party from the middle of the mountain. At the moment, there were no anti-stealth skills that specifically targeted stealth, so the thieves were good at peeping. However, stealth was a skill that would be exposed at the slightest movement. Using identify while stealth would also reveal one's true form. Therefore, the sword demon could only rely on stealth to move closer to the 10 of them. Then, he would find a place to hide and slowly appraise them. The place he chose was the boulder by the lake that the Han family young master used as the axis. When he arrived behind the boulder, the sword demon revealed his true form. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. They were only 2 meters away from the group of people training. If they took 2 steps forward, they would immediately discover the sword demon hiding behind the boulder. Stealth couldn't be used when they were under attack or under any abnormal conditions. For experienced players, it was easy to prevent a thief from using stealth. More importantly, to use identify, one's eyes had to pay attention to the target. At this time, the sword demon was hiding behind the boulder, and his own vision was blocked. If he wanted to use identify, he would have to reveal his head, but he couldn't see the situation outside. How would the sword demon know if he would make eye contact with someone after revealing his head? At this time, Gu Fei finally appreciated the legendary ghost duo Golden Duo in the online gaming world. The far-sighted Han family young master became the sword demon's eyes. He paid attention to the line of sight of the 10 players and gave orders to the sword demon. The sword demon seemed to be under the control of the Han family young master. He accurately grasped 10 gaps and revealed his head perfectly, completing identify 10 times, and presented the results to the chat window. Unhindered was indeed the number 1 guild. Among the 10 leveling party, 8 of them were level 30. Of course, although they were all level 30, there was still a large gap between their experience and that of the top players like the Sword Demon. Unfortunately, experience didn't help in battle. This was how the parallel world used the setting to close the gap between players. Their levels aren't low, but their equipment is average. Brother Yu looked at the way the 10 players fought and the results of the identify. He began to analyze them one by one. The 2 warriors are hard to kill instantly. It looks like they're both tanky. The mage's weapon isn't bad, and his magic attack is very high, but his defense isn't good. The archer is just following the party to gain experience, so he can be ignored. The 3 priests have average skills, but if they focus on healing the 2 warriors, it'll be troublesome. As for the 3 thieves, those 2 are average. The third one is no smiler. The Sword Demon's identify failed. It looks like his identify level is higher than the Sword Demon's. Yeah, Sword Demon, you hide there first? Han family young master said. The Sword Demon made an okay gesture in the direction of the Han family young master, then activated stealth and disappeared. Let's take care of the 3 priests first. Brother Yu, what do you think? Han family young master said, and the battle meeting began in the chat window. Yeah, or else those 2 warriors will be too big of a threat. Brother Yu said. However, 2 of the 3 priests are tanky, so it'll be a bit troublesome. Wushang's whirlwind slash can kill one, but Sword Demon's backstab and Yutian's snipe probably won't be enough. If they're a bit smarter and use their healing skills to stall for time, we'll be in even more trouble. It looks like it'll be impossible to take care of all 10 at once. Han family young master said. I don't think so. Brother Yu sighed. What about you guys? What do you think? Han family young master asked. Since we can't take them all at once, let's take them down one by one. Gu Fei said. Everyone waited for Gu Fei to continue. There's a big flaw in their team composition. Gu Fei said. Really? Everyone began to pay attention to the team composition of the 10. The mage has low defense and HP, and the archer is on the weaker side. Gu Fei continued. If we take out the mage, their team basically has no long-range attack ability. Han family young master had already seen through Gu Fei's thoughts. That's right. With Yu Tian's attack power, he might be able to take out the mage with 1 snipe. Gu Fei couldn't forget about Yu Tian Shenming's snipe yesterday. Brother Yu calculated the mage's stats again and expressed his affirmation. It'll be an instant kill. Unless, Yu Tian, you can't hit him. You're kidding. Yu Tian Shenming was disdainful. Suddenly being sniped by an archer, I think their reaction will be to scatter and find cover. Gu Fei said, taking this opportunity, Sword Demon can sneak over and launch a surprise attack. He can take care of a priest. Not necessarily. Sword Demon said, maybe I can take care of 2. But then Sword Demon will be exposed. Yu Tian Shenming said. Then run. Can any of them catch up to you? Gu Fei said. There's also an archer. Yu Tian Shenming said. The archer's arrows will undoubtedly run faster than Sword Demon's people. At this time, you can probably launch a second snipe, right? Gu Fei said. So, Gu Fei concluded, as long as we use Sword Demon's stealth and Yu Tian's snipe, it will be enough to take care of their team. Good idea. Han family young master said, however, our goal is to wipe them out. So, after Sword Demon and Yu Tian deal enough damage to them, everyone will attack in one go. No problem. Everyone said. Yu Tian, get ready. Han family young master issued an attack order. Chapter 42. Yu Tian Shenming got into position and knocked an arrow. The sniper shot an arrow, whistling across the valley, and hit the enemy mage in the head. That's too cruel. Why did he shoot the head? He must have played too much Counter-Strike. As the enemy mage turned into a white light, the mercenary group was in a heated discussion. This sudden attack startled the remaining 9 people on the other side. Because the arrow came so suddenly, no one knew where it was coming from. Once a character died in the game, the corpse would return to the resurrection point with an arrow in its head, so it was impossible to deduce where it fell from. But what surprised them was that the remaining 9 fellows did not flee in panic like Gu Fei had guessed. Instead, They very calmly formed a circle with their backs facing each other. They faced all 4 directions evenly, their gazes scanning the mountains closely. They're well trained. Hiding in the forest, Gu Fei saw that his plan couldn't be carried out after only 1 step, and couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. Rich experience. No wonder Unsmiler is a veteran player. It seems that these people have trained together. They didn't form a random team, the Han family's young master said calmly. What do we do now? Gu Fei asked. Let them play back-to-back for a while. Didn't hide well. Han family young master said. Of course, I'll let them know what an archer is today. Yutian Shenming obviously had a deep grudge against reigning the world's disdain yesterday. But Gu Fei's impression of him changed slightly. Yesterday, Yutian Shenming didn't say anything about the treasure chest, and a large part of it was because Gu Fei and Little Yu knew each other. Knowing that Yutian Shenming was being looked down upon, Gu Fei's first thought was that this damned kid would definitely vent his anger on him. But now, it seemed like this kid didn't have that kind of mentality. It seemed like this damned kid was also a generous person. Just like that, the 6 of them quietly watched the 9 people form a circle. Bored to death, the Han family young master asked a question. Comrades, if we were to encounter such a situation one day, how would we handle it? Hide in the forest. The answer was almost unanimous. Not bad. So, Comrade Chen Li, be careful. As soon as the Han family young master finished speaking, the 9 people in the circle did not move after waiting for a long time. As expected, they started to move towards the forest in a circle formation. Yutian, is the cooldown for your sniper rifle ready? Asked the Han family young master. It's been done for a long time, Yutian replied. All right, everyone get into position. The Han family's young master suddenly gave the order. Another whistling arrow tore through the air, and without missing its target, it instantly killed the lowest-leveled archer of the reigning the 4 seas. However, this arrow also exposed Yutian Shenming's position. Over there, a warrior beside the fallen archer shouted. The remaining 8 people gave up on the idea of entering the forest, and strode towards the direction of Yutian Shenming's ambush on the hillside. At this time, the sword demon drilled out from behind a rock. However, in stealth mode, his movement speed was greatly reduced, and he was completely unable to catch up to any of the opponents who were running at full speed. Seeing the opponents flash past in front of him one by one, the sword demon did not even have a chance to get close to them. When all 8 of them had their backs facing him, the sword demon simply dispelled stealth mode and used the thief's level 30 skill, Swift. His movement speed was not slow to begin with, but in an instant, his speed increased by 15%. In a jog, he rushed behind the last of the 8, the cleric. Amidst the sounds of footsteps, the cleric finally heard something strange behind him. However, before he could turn around, the sword demon had already stabbed his waist with backstab. The cleric let out a scream. Just as Brother Yu had said, the sword demon's backstab was not enough to cause an instant kill to this level 30 cleric. This cleric was also very experienced. After being attacked, he immediately cast a healing spell on himself. The second attack from the sword demon pulled out his dagger and arrived at the same time as the cleric's healing spell. After one attack, the cleric still did not fall. The sword demon's heart was cold. If these 2 attacks did not kill him, then there would be no chance. The other party had already discovered him, and when the 2 clerics cast their healing spells, would he still have a chance? Just as he was thinking about this, he suddenly heard 2 whooshing sounds. The cleric had fallen with another In the flashing white light, the sword demon saw 2 arrows stuck in his back. Looking into the distance, Yutian Shenming stood tall on the hillside, his right arm raised high, and made a V gesture at him. Archer's level 24 skill, double strike. The sword demon smiled, raised his arm, and gave a thumbs up to Yutian Shenming. Then he quickly retreated. You 2 go take care of that archer, someone on the other side ordered. The 2 thieves nodded and simultaneously activated the thief's level 30 skill, quickness. They quickly ran towards Yutian Shenming. Wow, so fast. Yutian Shenming did not bother to shoot and broke into a run. If the 2 thieves rushed in front of him, then he really had no way to survive. Wushang, Brother Yu, support Yuden. The Han family young master also ordered. Got it, Yuden, the wooden house at 9 o'clock. Brother Yu said. The remaining 3 warriors, 2 clerics, and 1 thief on the other side, at this time, aggressively rushed towards the sword demon. The thief also used the level 30 skill, quickness, and quickly rushed towards the sword demon. At the same time, he shouted to the 2 priests behind him, "Don't let him go into stealth." The 2 priests immediately used the pitiful priest skill, which was also the only attack skill they knew, Holy Light Ball. 2 pure white balls of light were summoned as the 2 chanted, but the experienced sword demon had already activated stealth after giving Yutian Shenming a thumbs up and retreated. At this time, he had already disappeared. The 2 pure balls of light could only be helplessly thrown into the air. Damn! The thief who tried to come up and fight the sword demon was flustered and exasperated. Be careful! He reminded the 4 people behind him while also retreating to the team. At the same time, he shouted into the air, "Who the hell are you people?" Ah. The answer to him was 2 screams. The thief quickly turned his head to look. In the distance, the 2 thieves chasing Yutian Shenming were about to catch up to Yutian Shenming. They didn't think that a warrior would come out from behind the wooden house. His body had already been blessed by the night. With a loud roar, he used the most visually destructive skill in the game, Whirlwind Slash. The 2 bandits didn't expect that there would be someone intercepting them on their way. At this moment, they couldn't dodge in time and were firmly spun by Zhan Wushang's Whirlwind Slash. Imperial Divine Cry also shot a few arrows from behind to add fuel to the fire. In just a few moments, the 2 bandits were already dead. Another person came out from behind the broken house. In his hand was a knight's common weapon, a scepter, and he patted and scathed in battle. The 3 walked side by side, quickly rushing over to this side of the battlefield. In the blink of an eye, half of the 10 leveling party had already been killed. Anyone's heart would palpitate. "Who the hell are you people?" The thief roared. He didn't want to answer, but he screamed again. Among the 5 people who were gradually shrinking to form a circle again, one of the priests was once again backstabbed by Sword Demon. The other party had been carefully guarding against the attack. As soon as he was attacked, he had already started chanting a healing spell. Unexpectedly, this time there was no chance at all. After being backstabbed by Sword Demon, the priest fell directly. Critical. As a fellow thief, he knew the maximum power of a thief's backstab at this current level. He also knew how much his partner's HP and defense were. To be able to instantly kill him with a backstab, it must have triggered the critical rate, and the critical rate was not low. Of course, this was also one of the reasons why Sword Demon chose the priest who added all points in wisdom among the 3 of them this time. It was too late for Sword Demon to pull out and retreat. The other party was originally in the encirclement, so they took advantage of the situation and surrounded him. "Kill him." The thief gave the order and rushed forward with a dagger in his hand. At the same time, his eyes fell on the dagger in Sword Demon's hand. This was obviously a sharp weapon with a critical attack. It was an absolute superb item. It would be great if it dropped. Trapped in a tight encirclement, Sword Demon did not dodge or evade. Instead, he stubbornly stabbed the last enemy warrior. In the distance, Yutian Shenming had also launched a rescue. A sniper shot whistled again, aiming directly at the target of Sword Demon's attack. Unscathed in battle, and Brother Yu chased after the arrow and rushed over in big strides. No matter what, this guy is dead for sure. With this thought in mind, the other party's attack had already greeted Sword Demon. When they confidently thought that Sword Demon was about to fall, a white light fell on Sword Demon almost at the same time as their attack. On the other hand, Sword Demon was completely focused. He gritted his teeth and stabbed the warrior in front of him. The opponent's priest thought that Sword Demon would definitely die under the attack of the 4 people. He didn't think about healing his warrior at all. He was summoning the Holy Light Orb to experience the fun of killing the enemy. The warrior fell to the ground under 2 consecutive attacks from Sword Demon and a sniper shot from Yutian Shenming. Sword Demon rushed out of the encirclement, and a white light fell on him in an instant. Sword Demon turned around and held the dagger in his hand across his chest. He looked really incomparably fierce. The other party was completely stunned. It seemed like it was just 2 healing spells, but the timing was so precise that it was hopeless. Thieves were not a profession with high HP. Under the joint attack of 2 warriors and 1 thief, just 1 hit from each was enough to make Sword Demon's HP drop to the bottom. But the wonderful thing was that the opponent's priest used a healing spell. If Sword Demon was allowed to take these 3 attacks, then Sword Demon would be dead before he could recover. Therefore, the priest released the healing spell in the small gap between the 3 attacks and used this gap to recover Sword Demon's HP. It was equivalent to increasing the upper limit of Sword Demon's HP, allowing him to take 3 attacks. This healing spell had no effect whether it was early or late. It was only at this moment that it could save Sword Demon's life. This was definitely not something an ordinary player could achieve. The 3 of them looked back and saw a priest standing not far away. He was using the 3rd healing spell to completely restore Sword Demon's HP. Who are you? The other party threw out this question for the 3rd time. Stupid! Can't you see that we all have our faces covered? How can we tell you who we are? Han family young master said coldly. He took a step forward and blocked the other party's way. Unscathed in battle and brother Yu had already rushed to the front while talking. Yutian Shenming was in the distance with his bow and arrow ready. No one said a word. They all attacked at the same time as if they had a tacit understanding. The remaining warrior and priest quickly fell to the ground, while the thief disappeared under Sword Ghoul's brutal attack. Disappear? Sword Demon was shocked. The effect of disappear was exactly the same as stealth. The only difference was that it could be forcefully activated in any situation. This was definitely not a skill that a thief at the current level should have. It's a skill scroll. Brother Yu frowned. The skill activated by the skill scroll was based on the attributes of the scroll. It was not affected by the character's current level or skill proficiency. It could be a skill that you have not learned yet, and it was all instant cast. Fuck. Han family young master was flustered and exasperated. It was obvious that this guy was the biggest target this time, Unsmiler. However, no matter how much they thought about it, they did not expect this person to have such a high-level skill scroll. They actually let the final boss escape at the last moment. This was definitely a very depressing thing in the game. They looked in the direction of the valley exit. Unsmiler would probably be able to swagger in that direction now. Suddenly, Gu Fei's figure appeared from the forest. Han family young master was naturally furious. This guy actually appeared at this time. He was about to scold when he saw Gu Fei raise his arm, the dark red long sword in his hand horizontally beside him. Where do you want to go? Gu Fei smiled. Chapter 43. Everyone was dumbfounded, thinking that Gu Fei had lost his mind. Otherwise, why would he talk to the air? In the end, Gu Fei took 2 steps to the right, still holding the baptism of fire horizontally by his side. I'm talking to you. Still running. Just as the young master of the Han clan was about to start cursing, he saw a figure gradually appear in front of Gu Fei's horizontal blade. The figure was staring at Gu Fei, dumbfounded. It was the rogue who wanted to escape, the protagonist of this operation, Non-Smiler. The valley was silent. Everyone looked at Gu Fei dumbfoundedly. Only the Sword Demon's expression was more natural. This wasn't the first time he had seen this. Go back, Gu Fei said lightly. Non-Smiler suddenly laughed. He had already used Identify on Gu Fei. Although he did not know how this guy discovered him when he was in stealth mode, there was no doubt that Gu Fei was a magician with trash equipment. His level was quite high, but he was holding a sword in his hand. What fire baptism? What? Are you trying to trick me? Non-Smiler already suspected that Gu Fei was a blind cat running into a dead mouse and that he had been fooled by this guy. Taking advantage of the fact that the other 5 were still far away, Non-Smiler attacked Gu Fei without hesitation. At such a distance, wouldn't dealing with a mage be a matter of 2 or 3 strikes? Even with a priest by his side, it would be difficult to save him. Everyone would think so, and Non-Smiler was no exception. The Han family young master and the others were the same. At this moment, they were hurriedly pouncing over to help. No one expected that Gu Fei would casually take a step back, and Non-Smiler's strike missed. Then his arm bent, and the baptism of fire sliced toward Non-Smiler. The speed of the attack was far beyond Non-Smiler's expectations. In a panic, he hurriedly swung his dagger to block. This was the result of the current players training in MRPG for a period of time. When attacked, they wouldn't rely on their HP to tank. Players with keen senses had already discovered that in order to maximize the damage of their attacks, they needed to grasp the timing and position of their attacks, and if they wanted the enemy's attacks to miss, they needed to dodge or block. If he straightened his chest and took the hit head-on, he would be hit 100% of the time. There wouldn't be a situation where his dodge rate was high while his opponent's hit rate was low. This little discovery was of course nothing to Gu Fei. He had been playing the game with this attitude from the beginning. At the moment, his situation was the opposite of the players. Currently, most players had the ability to evade attacks, but because they lacked the awareness to do so, or in other words, they lacked insight into their opponent's attacks, which resulted in their ability not being fully utilized. On the other hand, Gu Fei didn't lack awareness, nor did he lack the ability to see through his opponent's attacks. He just kept complaining that his body wasn't fast enough and that his strength wasn't great enough. Due to the players' own problems, they were unable to display the abilities set in the game. However, Gu Fei felt that the limitations of the data in the game prevented him from displaying his abilities to the fullest. From time to time, there would be attacks that Gu Fei could see clearly, but in the end, his body wouldn't be able to keep up with the rhythm, causing him to fail to dodge. This kind of situation happened occasionally, which made him very depressed. But in front of the players, Gu Fei's advantage was too obvious. Non-Smiler thought that he had succeeded by raising his dagger to block. How could he know that this slash from Gu Fei contained several variations of kung fu moves? Someone raised his blade to block. Such a common response was, of course, within the range of variations of this slash. Gu Fei's wrist bent casually, and this slash had already changed direction, changing from a slash to a slash, slashing diagonally at the Non-Smiler's waist. The dark red blade suddenly flashed, and a streak of fire streaked across the entire blade, as if it was burning, finally converging on the part of the Non-Smiler that had been slashed. There was a 30% chance of triggering, and a fire attack was launched. Although Gu Fei hadn't added wisdom, mages were born with a high rate of growth in wisdom. This was an advantage that came at the expense of strength growth and constitution growth. As their levels increased, the mage's natural growth of mana was much more plentiful than that of most professions. The fire damage caused by this slash wasn't on the same level as the fire damage caused by the hands of ordinary warriors. Non-Smiler took this slash, relying on his defense to hold on wasn't particularly uncomfortable, but the fire damage that followed made him suffer quite a bit. Thieves were also a profession with low HP, and this time, their HP immediately dropped by half. Pale with fright, Gu Fei's second slash had already arrived. Non-Smiler raised his dagger to block, but how could he catch Gu Fei's skillful attack? The baptism of fire once again bypassed the dagger that was held horizontally in the air and landed on his shoulder. Non-Smiler's heart went cold, and he could only close his eyes and wait for death. Who knew that this time, the fire magic wouldn't activate? Just as he was secretly rejoicing, Gu Fei's third slash had already arrived. This kind of continuous attack was simply the style of a thief. Non-Smiler was completely speechless. For a moment, he wondered if there was a problem with his identify, or if the opponent had some higher-level identify skill. Illusionary flowers, moon water enchantment? I've never heard of this kind of skill. Non-Smiler the third slash didn't resist at all. He just raised his arm and tried to pull off the black cloth covering Gu Fei's face. Of course, Gu Fei didn't let him have his way. He dodged while continuing to slash at Non-Smiler's body. Fire damage was activated once again. Flames flashed, and just as Non-Smiler was about to be engulfed, a white light suddenly descended on his head. Restore. Non-Smiler's HP was saved by this restore. He turned his head in surprise and looked at the only priest present, Han family young master. Gu Fei also stopped attacking. Seeing that he was about to finish off a character, he suddenly lent a helping hand. Naturally, he had something to say. Brother Yu, unscathed in battle and the others were originally going to rush up to help, But when they saw Gu Fei start to slash, non-smiler stood still. For a mage to slash a thief, they couldn't quite accept it for the first time. In particular, they were legendary in-game experts. The deep-rooted traditional concepts of online games made them feel that they must be seeing things. While they were in a daze, Gu Fei finished his 3 slashes and Han family young master used his restore before they came back to their senses. They hurriedly rushed forward, surrounding the non-smiler in the middle. Non-smiler was everyone's ultimate goal, but everyone's eyes were on Gu Fei. Only Han family young master stood firm. He looked at non-smiler and asked indifferently, "Non-smiler?" Unsmilingly nodded and glanced at the guys around him. All of their faces were covered with black cloth. And the one talking to him seemed to have more than one piece of cloth on his face. The one speaking in this situation should be the leader of this group. Could it be that having more cloth on one's face was a sign of a leader? Non-smiler, from being surrounded to being seen through, to being attacked by a mage with a sword, to seeing the Han family young master with 3 pieces of cloth on his face, question marks came one after another in his mind. "Do you know who we are?" Han family young master said. Non-smiler shook his head. "That's good." Han family young master let out a long sigh. "Don't talk nonsense." Sword demon rolled his eyes. Han family young master nodded and pointed at non-smiler. Have you heard of Amethyst Reborn?" Non-smiler was surprised. Even the bystanders could relate to the grudge between him and July, let alone him. "I don't know what you think about Purple Crystal Resurrection, but I have 2 sisters in that guild. So, if you go looking for trouble with Purple Crystal Resurrection, we'll come looking for you, understand?" Han Zhuoling's reply was, "I don't know what you think about Purple Crystal Resurrection, but I have 2 sisters in that guild. So, if you go looking for trouble with Purple Crystal Resurrection, we'll come looking for you, understand?" Non-smiler didn't say anything. Han family young master didn't force him to answer. He only continued to say indifferently, "Today's matter is a warning to you. All right, your brothers are all dead. We came here for you today, so there's no reason not to kill you." After saying that, he winked at the side. The sword ghost took a step forward and brandished his dagger. Under the astonished gaze of the non-smiler, the sword ghost finished him off. "Let's call it a day," Han family young master said. Everyone nodded and suddenly rushed forward, grabbing Gu Fei. "Brother, you reached out and tore off the black cloth on his face. What are you doing?" Gu Fei didn't expect this and couldn't defend himself. That's why they say friends are scarier than enemies. "It's really Qianli," Yutian Shenming shouted. "Nonsense." Gu Fei was depressed. Han family young master tore off the 3 pieces of cloth on his face and walked forward. He pulled Gu Fei's head and looked at it from left to right. Gu Fei resisted, but the one behind him was unscathed in battle. He simply lifted a finger and Gu Fei's resistance was suppressed. Han family young master studied Gu Fei's face and asked, "Brother, there aren't any disguise skills in the game, right?" "I don't think so." Brother Yu, who was always confident in his intelligence, was a bit hesitant. He also walked forward and studied Gu Fei's face. "Hey, that's enough," Gu Fei said. "It really is Qianli." Brother Yu said, "I think so too." Han family young master said. Unscathed in battle released Gu Fei from behind. Gu Fei put the knife back into his pocket. The others still looked at him like he was a monster. "Qianli, you added points to agility, right?" Brother Yu asked. This was the first time the mercenary group members, besides Sword Demon, appreciated Gu Fei's skills. Gu Fei nodded. "Quan Min," everyone looked at each other. "This training method of yours, how did you figure it out?" Brother Yu asked carefully. He began to suspect that Gu Fei was an internal member of the gaming company and that he had access to a lot of undisclosed data. Otherwise, who would add points to a mage's full agility at the start of a game? What's there to think about? Gu Fei spoke of his grievance of choosing the wrong mage. Of course, his words couldn't help but express his endless frustration towards becoming a mage. Other than that, he also expressed his endless yearning to become a grandmaster of combat or even a warrior. This of course attracted the dissatisfaction of Yutian Shenming, who was no longer a mage but still loved mages. "Damn, What's wrong with being a mage? Training like this is a waste of a mage. Gu Fei sighed, kids don't understand adult matters. Yutian Shenming was so angry that his nose was crooked. The others were also a bit curious. Why is Qianli so into a grandmaster of combat? Because I am a grandmaster of combat who studies Kung Fu. Gu Fei said. Chapter 44. Kung Fu? Grandmaster of Combat? Research? The others repeated Gu Fei's words as they looked at each other and smiled. Gu Fei had seen this kind of expression too many times. Every time he talked about his Kung Fu, they would always have this kind of disapproving expression. But this was the game, and Gu Fei had the ability to prove it. He waved the fire baptism in his hand and said to the others, "Look at this move of mine. There are 4 variations and 4 follow-up moves. Okay. Don't change your move, change your equipment first. The enemy's follow-up move is about to come." Han Family Young Master said. Change my equipment? Gu Fei didn't understand. Everyone, change your equipment. Han Family Young Master turned around and said to the other 4. The 4 nodded, and in the blink of an eye, they were all dressed in plain clothes. Brother Yu turned around and explained to Gu Fei, even though our faces are covered, the enemy can still recognize our equipment if they use Identify, especially since Unsmiler's Identify is quite high level. Like the Sword Demon's Frostbite's memory, it's definitely a good item that will never be forgotten. That's why. Let's change our equipment to make sure they don't recognize us. Gu Fei nodded, but this is all I have. You don't need to change. Han Family Young Master said, take off your broken straw hat, take off your broken shoes, put away your broken sword, and dress like a mage. Gu Fei listened to his orders. Han Family Young Master continued, the quest isn't over yet, it's only just begun. Unsmiler has been around for so many years, he won't be scared off so easily. I think he still has the guts to take revenge on us. Brother Yu agreed, not to mention he has Reigning 4 as his backer. I think they've already called for help when they were attacked. Yutian Shenming nodded, they did call for help in the guild channel. But we moved fast enough. They shouldn't have gone far. The Han Family Young Master looked at the time and said, let's split up and go to the Cloud Fruit Farm in the west of the city. We'll mingle with the ordinary players and kill monsters to level up. If you see anyone from Reigning 4 Seas, remember to gather information about them. Don't close the chat window and listen to the news at any time. Everyone nodded and prepared to go their separate ways after leaving the valley. Are you guys interested in learning Kung Fu from me? Gu Fei shouted. There will be a chance. The Han Family Young Master patted him and turned around. Let's go. The 6 of them chose their own path. In short, they temporarily avoided the main road leading to Cloud City from Cloud Valley. Not long after leaving the Cloud Red Mountain Valley was the Cloud Material Farm. The monsters here ranged from level 25 to level 30, and it was currently one of the areas with the most players. The supply of small monsters could not meet the demand, and the players stopping here and there had become a part of the scenery here. Under these circumstances, no one actually tried to kill Steel. This was all because there was an unwritten rule in the Cloud Material Farm. Kill stealers will be attacked by everyone. This wasn't because the players were of high quality, but because everyone felt that there were too many monks and not enough gruel. If someone gave everyone such a cool excuse to kick them out, they would be more than happy to do so. As this situation continued, there were no more kill stealers in the Cloud Material Farm. Instead, there were more and more people who were falsely accused of kill stealing. Those who were falsely accused often had one thing in common: they were too strong. Those who were too strong killed monsters quickly, and this made most of the ordinary players feel uneasy. As a result, once someone went against their conscience and shouted he stole the kill, even more people would immediately pretend to have made a mistake. No matter how strong a player was, they would not be able to withstand the sudden mistake of more than 20 people around them. They would not even have the chance to defend themselves before they disappeared from the field of hope. The Cloud Crop Farm was a very dark place. Brother Yu explained the situation of the farm to everyone in the mercenary channel, reminding them not to show off too much, and to just go up and find a random monster to pretend to be good. Everyone nodded in agreement. When they arrived at the cloud material farm, Gu Fei looked around and saw a few people mixed in the crowd. They all subconsciously leaned towards the road in the middle of the farm. This was the road that led straight to Cloud Mist Valley, and if anyone came here, they would definitely pass through here. Gu Fei looked around. They were all following Brother Yu's instructions, holding the most broken weapons and looking for a target to slowly attack. Gu Fei immediately took out his magic staff, but he didn't use any spells. He just used it like a fire stick to hit a grass doll that spawned in front of him. Not long after, dust began to fly in the distance. Several players were running in this direction at a uniform speed. After all, different bonuses and equipment affected the movement speed of each class. If everyone ran at their maximum speed, the team would be in a straight line, and they would be attacked one by one. Reigning the Four Seas had obviously considered this problem, and so they chose to run at a uniform speed. The crowd ran through the road in the field, matched with various classes. The players leveling up in the farm couldn't help but stop to watch. They leveled up here every day, but they had never seen such a big commotion before. What was going on? The players were all discussing. An experienced player pointed at the emblem worn by the players in the middle of the road and explained to the others, "Reigning the Four Seas." So the players all understood that Reigning the Four Seas was doing a training event to improve the quality of their troops. "It's quite a scene," Han Family Young Master said in the mercenary channel. "Yu Tian, how many people does Reigning have right now?" "We just got promoted to level 3, and we've already recruited 300 people." Yu Tian Shenming replied. "How many are level 30? "Big bro, there are no numbers in front of us. Don't expect me to count them one by one." Yu Tian Shenming said. "This unfunny, if he knew what's good for him, he would have stopped them. What a pity. Looks like he thinks he has a strong backing. TSK, let's play with him a bit more." Han Family Young Master said. Reigning the Four Seas soon passed through the farm and headed straight for Cloud Valley. After that, there were only one or two scattered across the field. Yu Tian Shenming tried to take care of the stragglers, but was stopped by Han Family Young Master. "They're looking for us. Aren't you just telling them that we're at Cloud Valley Farm?" "Then what do we do now?" Yu Tian Shenming asked. "We don't have the ability to catch them all in one fell swoop. We can only catch the leader first. Did you see any non-smilers among the people who went over?" Han Family's Young Master asked. Brother Yu replied confidently. "This is his business. He has no reason not to come. I'm afraid it's because we just sent him back to the city and he's still on the way. Qianli, follow the road back to the city. If you see him, send us a message." Han Family Young Master said. Gu Fei got up and prepared to go. "Hurry up and go to the Thieves' Guild after returning to the city. That's where Unfunny will revive. Find a chance to get rid of him. I don't think you'll have a problem fighting him one-on-one, right?" Han Family Young Master said. "Of course not." Gu Fei rested his staff on his shoulder and whistled as he went on his way. Full agility mages weren't slow either. Gu Fei ran for a while. When he could see the outline of Cloud City, he saw a figure running towards him. When he looked closer, it was indeed Unfunny. "I see Unfunny," Gu Fei yelled in the mercenary channel. "Got it. Don't worry about him. Hurry up and go. When you get to the Thieves' Guild, send us a message. Brother Yu, you go too. We'll estimate when Unfunny will arrive and choose a place to strike." Han Family Young Master commanded. "No problem." Gu Fei and Brother Yu sent the message at the same time. At the same time, Gu Fei and Unfunny brushed past each other. Unfunny didn't notice Gu Fei at all. He was anxiously hurrying forward. Returning to Cloud City, Gu Fei quickly arrived at the Thieves' Guild. He looked around and sent a message. "I'm here." Before that, Brother Yu had already met up with Unfunny. Knowing that Gu Fei had already arrived at the designated location, the strategy was quickly arranged. "Unfunny is here." In the chat channel, Yu Tian Shenming yelled. Hey, live text broadcast." Gu Fei didn't want to miss this exciting scene since he couldn't watch it live. "Let me do it." Yu Tian Shenming volunteered. Unfunny is walking over. He's walking over. He's walking alone. He's holding a dagger in his hand, representing the glorious tradition of thieves. Walking on the field road, he doesn't look around. He's walking straight ahead. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Sorry, I should count backwards. It's more exciting that way. Sorry, I don't know how many steps to start counting backwards or forward. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. He's getting closer. 1 step after another. 6 steps, 7 steps. He's here. He's attacking. The sword demon hiding in the middle of the road is attacking. The moment Unfunny passed by him, he nimbly turned around and stabbed the dagger deep into. Sorry, I didn't see if it was his waist or his butt. Unfunny turned his head, but there wasn't a smile on his face. Unfortunately, all he saw was a face covered by a black cloth. Unfunny tried to pull off the cloth, but he didn't have the chance. The sword demon stabbed him again. Sword demon, I think you should let him pull off the cloth on your face. That way you'll scare him to death. Maybe he'll drop some equipment. Scram. The sword demon, who had dealt with Unfunny, sent a word. Chinli, how's it going on your side? Han family young master asked. Yeah, I've already seen him, Gu Fei said. He watched as Unfunny rushed out of the Thieves' Guild with a flustered and exasperated face. He spun around twice on the spot. He was probably so angry that he couldn't tell where he was going. Then he drooped his head at a 45-degree angle and stared blankly at the ground. I'm making my move. Unfortunately, I don't have time to broadcast it. Gu Fei took out a black cloth and covered his face. He put on the straw hat and carried the flame baptism behind him. He quickly chased after Unfunny. Chapter 45. No one knew what he was thinking, but he was so engrossed in it that he didn't even notice Gu Fei was behind him. It was too boring to attack from behind. Gu Fei made a turn and arrived in front of the non-smiler. Hey! The non-smiler raised his head. As soon as he saw the black cloth covering his face, he immediately jumped up as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He didn't even want to attack and just turned around to run. He didn't expect this to be even more boring than fighting an NPC. Gu Fei thought painfully and rushed forward to stab the non-smiler. Thieves were originally a class with an advantage in agility, but the non-smiler focused on strength and had just dropped 2 levels. Compared to a mage who focused on agility, his speed was actually inferior. After all, although mages didn't have an advantage in agility, they didn't skimp on it. The process of killing the non-smiler made Gu Fei feel extremely dull. The non-smiler only cared about running back to the safe zone, but unfortunately, Gu Fei's speed was faster than him. Step by step, he chased and slashed. The fire attack of the baptism of flames didn't even trigger once. The non-smiler was still killed before he could step into the safe zone. This caused the surrounding players to scream in shock. Gu Fei sighed deeply. At this time, the non-smiler had already resurrected in the Thief Guild. Naturally, he was extremely angry, pointing at Gu Fei and cursing. Gu Fei turned a deaf ear to him. He shrugged at the non-smiler to express his helplessness, then waved his hand and left. How is it? How is it? How is it? At this time, the Han family young masters group of questions in the mercenary channel had already flooded to more than 100 posts. It's done. Gu Fei quickly replied. Did he drop anything? Han family young master asked. No, Gu Fei replied. No way. He's so lucky? Nothing dropped after dying 3 times? Han family young master's words made everyone very suspicious of his motives. He plotted to kill the non-smiler twice. Was it because he wanted to completely suppress the non-smiler's spirit, or was it because he coveted the non-smiler's equipment? Let's kill him again. Yutian Shenming was much more straightforward. I don't believe that he won't drop anything. How did he react when he saw you? Han family young master asked Gu Fei. Scared, very scared. What happens after you're killed? Angry, very angry. How about now? I walked away. I think he's going to call for help to surround me. Gu Fei said. A level 30 novice mage robe is still a bit conspicuous. Go buy a mage robe and wear it. Han family young master said. I want to get a set of clothes with high defense, preferably with some agility or strength. What do you recommend? Gu Fei consulted the masters. In this regard, he had also done some research on the internet, but he still did not dare to compare himself to these masters. The Swift Shadow Cloak often has an additional agility attribute. The Cloak of the Strong usually has an additional strength attribute. Take a look at these two. Sword Demon suggested to Gu Fei, although the defense isn't as good as a warrior's armor, armor is considered a heavy armor. It requires a corresponding amount of strength to wear. You didn't add any strength, right? I haven't added any yet. We'll talk about it later. Gu Fei said. Everyone, other than that, please get a mage robe. As a mage, you'll be even more conspicuous if you wear a thief's favorite cloak. I promise there won't be a second mage like you in the entire city. Han Family Young Master said. A mage wearing a cloak? Comrades, I want to cry. Yutian Shenming said. Don't worry, wait until Qianli wears armor in the future before you cry. Brother, you comforted him. Your mage is a bit of a mess. I think we need to recruit a real mage for our team. Han Family Young Master said. Yutian Shenming cried in the end, if I knew this would happen, I would have chosen to be a mage. All right, let's get down to business. Han Family Young Master said, let's go back to the city now. Qianli, pay attention to Non-Smiler's movements. If there's a chance, go and see if he's given up. Then should I go to buy clothes, or to find out what's going on? Gu Fei asked. Do as you see fit. The Han clan's young master said. Gu Fei thought about it. Clothes were sold every day. If he didn't talk to Non-Smiler now, how would he have the chance to get close to him in the future? He immediately went back to the Thief's Guild. He hid behind the wall and looked over. Non-Smiler was still there, sitting alone in front of the Thief's Guild and playing Sadness. Gu Fei had long suspected that Non-Smiler would call for help to find him. How could he not be on guard now? He looked around for a while and made up his mind. He walked all the way to the Thief's Guild and found a dark corner. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, he quickly put on his mask. He turned around from behind the wall and appeared in front of Non-Smiler in a flash. Naturally, Non-Smiler was startled. He scrambled back into the safe zone. Gu Fei had a smile on his face. Unfortunately, it was blocked by the cloth and no one could appreciate it. He leaned against the wall and raised his head at Non-Smiler. Hey! Non-Smiler's eyes were full of hatred as he glared at Gu Fei. The two were only one step apart, but in the game, this step could mean the difference between life and death. Non-Smiler stood in the safe zone and straightened his back. He looked at Gu Fei and said, What do you guys want? Didn't I already tell you? Gu Fei said. But you guys, Gu Fei knew what he was going to say and directly interrupted him. Yeah, you probably didn't find trouble with Reborn Amethyst, but now you're going to find trouble with us. You see, this is an even crazier and more dangerous move. In order to help you wake up, we could only use this method and kill you twice. Now the organization has sent me to ask you, how are you? Are you awake? Who the hell are you guys? Non-Smiler's expression was close to madness. Is there any point in asking the same question so many times? We're not kids anymore. Grow up. Gu Fei said. Fate, grow up. Non-Smiler nodded his head. I'll grow up. Suddenly he let out a hysterical roar. Non-Smiler took a step forward and pounced at Gu Fei. He didn't even have a dagger in his hand. Looking at his movements, it was clear that he wanted to hug Gu Fei. But Gu Fei seemed to have anticipated this. His body suddenly crouched and he swung his sword in a backhand motion. At the same time Non-Smiler flashed past him, fire baptism also brushed past him. Flames flickered and fire magic burned Non-Smiler's body. Gu Fei flipped his wrist and his sword descended, chopping at Non-Smiler's back. At the same time, he raised his leg and kicked Non-Smiler's butt. Gu Fei's people had already retreated into the safe zone. Non-Smiler, who was still in the position of hugging Gu Fei, was kicked forward. At the same time, he was also very unlucky. The second time Gu Fei chopped at his back, he activated fire magic again. There were also a few people in a hugging posture in the direction Non-Smiler pounced towards. They wanted to hug Non-Smiler, but all they hugged was a flash of white light. Gu Fei looked at the 4Cs badges that these people wore on different parts of their bodies and sighed. Your murderous aura is too heavy. But these people were still immersed in the scene that had just happened in the blink of an eye. Non-Smiler had arranged for people to be nearby, waiting for the masked guy to appear. He didn't want to kill him, but he had to see his true face. Only then could he find out where this group came from and slowly take revenge in the future. Non-Smiler was overjoyed at Gu Fei's sudden appearance. He hummed and groaned perfunctorily to stall for time with Gu Fei, waiting for his subordinates to come and block Gu Fei's path of retreat. Then he and his subordinates attacked from the front and back, trying to pounce on Gu Fei, who knew that Gu Fei would dodge as if he was already prepared, and even finished him off in such a short period of time. In the eyes of ordinary people, Gu Fei's movements just now were unbelievably fast. However, in reality, what made Gu Fei fast was not speed, but rhythm. As he dodged, he was already launching an attack. When the first slash landed, he immediately changed to the angle where he could quickly launch a second attack. Before the second slash reached its end, his leg had already kicked out, causing Non-Smiler to stagger forward while his life was burned away by the enchantment of the second slash. To put it simply, ordinary players would do 4 steps of 1, 2, 3, 4. Gu Fei, on the other hand, did 2 steps at the same time, and in between he used the fastest method. This kind of attack and defense in one go, in the eyes of an outsider, could only be described with one word: fast. Gu Fei was now standing in the safe zone, and the 6 reigning players outside couldn't do anything to him. Once again back in the safe zone, Non-Smiler seemed to have lost his mind. He roared and pounced at Gu Fei, his hands waving wildly in the air, aiming for the black cloth on Gu Fei's face. But this time, Gu Fei didn't move, as if he didn't see it. Non-Smiler's hand was just about to grab the black cloth on Gu Fei's face when it suddenly stopped in midair. Gu Fei shook his head. "You didn't read the game manual properly. This is the offline safe zone, and players can't come into contact with each other. Otherwise, if you guys rushed in and threw me out before killing me, this safe zone wouldn't be the same." Non-Smiler's hand, frozen in midair, couldn't stop trembling. He, who had died 4 times in a row, was now challenging the god of the system, trying to break the taboo of contact in the safe zone. Of course, it was futile. But then Non-Smiler had an idea. He puffed up his cheeks and blew at Gu Fei's face. Gu Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Are you an idiot? I said we can't come into contact with each other. Do you think you can blow away the cloth on my face just by blowing?" Finally, at his wit's end, Non-Smiler slumped to the ground. Gu Fei looked at him with sympathy and couldn't help but comfort him. "Forget it, you're lucky you didn't drop anything after dying 4 times. Non-Smiler didn't react at all, and it was unknown whether he heard Gu Fei's words. Gu Fei shook his head and was about to walk away when he looked up. The players from Reigning the Seas were now blocking the entrance of the guild in a domineering manner. They obviously had no intention of letting him leave. Chapter 46. Hey! Gu Fei turned around and crouched beside Non-Smiler, pointing at the few people blocking the entrance of the Thieves' Guild. "I think you're still not clear-headed enough," Gu Fei said. Non-Smiler looked at him expressionlessly and didn't say anything. After a while, not only did the people outside not disperse, but they actually increased in number. Gu Fei sighed and pulled up the mercenary chat window. "This Non-Smiler really has guts. I killed him again and now I'm surrounded." "Then you're not dead yet?" Han Family Young Master asked. "I'm crouching in the safe zone," Gu Fei said. "Can you charge out?" Han Family Young Master asked. "I'll try," Gu Fei said as he stood up. "We'll be there soon," Han Family Young Master shouted in the chat window. "No need," Gu Fei said. "Their numbers are still increasing. Even if we all gather together, we won't be able to fight against 300 people from reigning the world. I'll take advantage of the small number of people and charge out by myself." "All right, good luck. We're going to drink," Han Family Young Master said. Gu Fei was speechless. The mage's robe was so long that it almost reached the ground and hindered his movements. Gu Fei lifted the hem and tied it firmly around his waist. He gripped the fire baptism in his hand tightly and said to Non-Smiler, "I'm going." Non-Smiler looked at him in surprise. There were already at least 10 unhindered players gathered outside the Thief Guild, and more were arriving. Did this guy think he was some kind of GM or something? Was he trying to charge out just like that? Even the people blocking the way outside didn't expect Gu Fei to do this. They were all prepared for a long battle. They thought that both sides would sit in the safe zone and negotiate, or that the other side would come to help. Thus, it would be a chaotic battle outside the safe zone. However, the current development was Gu Fei challenging them all by himself. Gu Fei slowly walked out of the safe zone. His face was still wrapped in a black cloth, so no one could see his expression. However, there was a kind of aura that made everyone subconsciously nervous. They kept reminding themselves in their hearts, "We have more people, what are we afraid of?" Although they had this kind of thought, the scene of Gu Fei finishing off the non-smiler in an instant kept replaying in their minds. How did he do it? They still couldn't figure it out. Gu Fei had already walked to the door. Suddenly, he kicked the ground and jumped out. The legendary boundary between life and death had been crossed by him. He waved the flame baptism in his hand to his side. As long as Gu Fei attacked, no one could dodge it. Firstly, the speed produced by adding all his points into agility was definitely not slow. Secondly, the angle of his attack was completely incomprehensible to others. Thirdly, even if his attack missed, he would still be able to quickly adjust and adapt. This first attack fiercely hit a wizard who was chanting beside him. Although Gu Fei didn't know appraisal, in reality, the equipment that each character would choose in the game was still very different. For example, a wizard's robe, a thief's favorite cloak, and a warrior's armor could all be distinguished at a glance. It was also a sure thing to determine a person's class by their attire. This slash hit the other party. Although it didn't kill him directly, it at least interrupted the wizard's chanting. Gu Fei could see through close-range attacks, but he was wary of the wizard's spells. In particular, the wizard's lowest-level spell, Fireball, actually had an automatic tracking function. Although the duration was very short, it still had a considerable impact on Gu Fei's skills. Not only did this slash hit the other party, but Gu Fei's flying kick also landed on a player. Of course, the damage of this kick was negligible, but the other party took a few steps back, just in time to block two players who were about to rush over. Gu Fei landed and flipped the flame baptism in his hand, attacking the wizard again. Unfortunately, the wizard had low HP and mediocre speed, so there was nothing he could do about Gu Fei's attack. The staff in his hand was not in the right position, and he felt very annoyed. The fire attack of the flame baptism was launched at the right time. Although the wizard's magic defense was higher than the average characters, his physical defense was on the low side, and he had low HP. After being hit by Gu Fei twice, he still couldn't escape death. Full of energy, Gu Fei raised his sword and fought again. A group of people blocked the door to kill him, but it turned out that Gu Fei had the initiative. A very important reason was that non-smilers stood in the safe zone and yelled, "Don't kill him, tear off the cloth on his face." Non-smiler was worried that once Gu Fei went out, he would be instantly dismembered and revived in the safe zone. If that happened, he would never be able to see this person's true identity again, so he made the same mistake as Cao Cao. It was said that in Dangyang Changban, Cao Cao shouted, "Don't shoot arrows, capture him alive," causing Zhao Yun to carry Liu Bei's son and stain his robe with blood before finally leaving. However, Cao Cao had at least 1,000,000 troops, so he was very confident. Non-smiler only had 10 people, and yet he dared to follow the ancient times. As he shouted, Gu Fei had already finished off the wizard. As soon as these words came out, the other players who wanted to take revenge were put in a difficult position. Not only could ordinary players not maximize their attack power like Gu Fei, but they also couldn't minimize the damage of their weapons. A few warriors with heavy weapons hesitated at this time, afraid that the heavy firepower in their hands would flatten Gu Fei. Gu Fei was not a rash person who was brave but not astute. When he made the decision to rush out of the encirclement, he had already seen the 10 people clearly and believed that he had the strength to deal with these 10 people. In the end, as soon as Non-Smiler gave the order, the remaining 9 of the 10 people became timid. One by one, they looked at Gu Fei, not knowing whether to attack or not. This made Gu Fei very unhappy, and he turned back to glare at Non-Smiler with murderous intent. Non-Smiler was not satisfied and continued to add to the chaos behind him. Capture him, tear off the cloth on his face, tear off the cloth on his face. A group of people put away their weapons and rushed forward unarmed, wanting to compete with Gu Fei. In the end, Gu Fei's flame baptism danced more vigorously than they did. Flames flew everywhere, and in the blink of an eye, 2 people with low HP were also defeated. Some warriors, relying on their rough skin and thick flesh, wanted to come forward and forcibly capture Gu Fei alive. But Gu Fei's speed was faster than the warriors, and with this skill and this fleeting movement, the group of people were like eagles catching chicks, but they couldn't even touch the edge of Gu Fei's clothes. In the blink of an eye, another 2 people fell to the ground. One of them was a warrior who thought that his HP was so high that he didn't care about Gu Fei's attacks. Non-Smiler had already realized that his command was a great failure, but things had already come to this, and he could only continue to make mistakes. Otherwise, the people who had heroically died at the beginning would come back and blame him. So he continued to shout, hold on, reinforcements will be here soon." Just from listening to him, and without looking at the scene, one would think that Gu Fei had brought a large group of people to surround them. After hearing Non-Smiler's reminder, Gu Fei also felt that it was not good for him to continue playing around here. When added to the damage of fire magic, Gu Fei's attack power was definitely not to be underestimated. But the problem was that his fire magic's probability was only 30%, which was the difference between maximum and minimum attack that Gu Fei couldn't overcome even with his skills. This caused him to often encounter some awkward problems in the process of fighting. For example, when he chopped down with his sword, there were several exquisite follow-up moves hidden, and the result was that the fire magic was triggered. With a whoosh, the opponent died. Or sometimes when he chopped down from the left, he hoped that the fire magic would destroy the guy in one go, and he would be free to deal with the right side. In the end, the fire magic just didn't come out, and he had no choice but to readjust his formation. This intermittent fire magic attack not only helped Gu Fei, but it also disrupted his rhythm to a certain extent, affecting his performance. In a one-on-one fight, this kind of effect was negligible, but in this kind of complex situation where one was fighting against many, the effect was constantly magnified. Originally, out of the 10 people surrounding him, 5 had been cut down by Gu Fei, but now there were still 8 left. It seemed that his plan to kill all 10 of them was a bit unrealistic. Not to mention the one who came in as support, just the 2 thieves had already died under Gu Fei's sword once. But in the end, this was the main entrance of the Thieves' Guild. After dying, they resurrected on the spot and rushed out to fight again. In any case, Non-Smiler's order was not to kill, but to look at the opponent's appearance. In order to prevent the durability of their equipment from dropping when they died, the 2 simply took off their upper arms and directly came out to fight with Gu Fei. Gu Fei's attacks were no longer limited to sword slashes, punches, and kicks. In short, he didn't let anyone get close. Although the few of them were beaten to a sorry state by Gu Fei, they still thought that at least their encirclement was very successful. Little did they know that it wasn't that they had trapped Gu Fei, but that Gu Fei himself didn't want to leave. At this moment, when Gu Fei wanted to leave, he decisively swung his sword twice, taking advantage of the gap that the other side dodged, and rushed out of the circle. Non-Smiler also thought that his encirclement was very successful. When he saw that Gu Fei had rushed out of the circle, he thought that it was a small mistake on the part of his subordinates. He anxiously shouted, "Hurry, surround him, surround him." As he shouted, he also rushed out of the safe zone with his upper arms bare. But at this time, Gu Fei had already rushed out a few meters. Non-Smiler pointed at Gu Fei and shouted at the 2 thieves beside him, "Quickness, hurry, quickness." The 2 thieves cried, "I just died and lost a level. I don't know quickness anymore." One of them cried even louder, "My quickness has already burned quite a lot of proficiency." When Non-Smiler heard this, his heart sank. He had already forgotten about his losses. He only looked at how many levels he had lost, and the durability of his equipment had all been refreshed to 0. But he was really lucky that he didn't drop anything. He completely forgot that his level 30 quickness, which he had already gained a lot of proficiency with, was now also gone. Just as he was vexed, he suddenly saw that Gu Fei had stopped in front of him. Non-Smiler was overjoyed and hurriedly ordered everyone to give chase. Unexpectedly, when Gu Fei turned around, he suddenly ran back with quick steps, muttering something. Everyone was startled and couldn't help but slow down a few steps. In the end, Gu Fei turned around and ran again with big strides. "Fuck, we've been tricked!" Non-Smiler shouted, flustered and exasperated. Because of this slow down, the distance between them increased again. Everyone was vexed and sped up again when suddenly there was a flash of fire in front of them. A fire dragon soared up and turned into several fireballs in the blink of an eye, rushing towards them with its tung-ting-ting sound. Accompanied by everyone's cries of surprise, everyone was hit by the explosion. Apart from Non-Smiler, these people still had traces of being cut by Gu Fei, and their health wasn't full. After one attack, 2 more people returned to the safe zone. Level 30 Wizard Skill, Chain Fireball. Although the shirtless Non-Smiler didn't die, he was not lightly injured. At this time, his eyes were full of hot tears, and he finally couldn't help but let out a sigh. "Fuck, I forgot that he's a wizard." Chapter 47. Before Gu Fei left, he suddenly came up with a plan. He turned around and threw out a chain of fireballs. This was the first time he used a mage skill in actual combat. Originally, he just wanted to slow down the guys behind him so they wouldn't chase so closely. In the end, he was delighted to see the results. He killed 2 of them. Unfortunately, at this time, he could see players rushing in this direction on the surrounding streets. They must be the helpers called by Non-Smiler. Gu Fei gave up on the idea of rushing back to kill all 3 of them and quickened his pace to escape the scene of the crime. After a few laps in the chaotic streets of Cloud City, he found a secluded corner with no one around. Gu Fei took off the black cloth, took off his straw hat, put away the flame baptism, took out his staff, and swaggered out of the corner. More and more players ran towards the Thieves' Guild. Only a small portion of them were players from Unhindered. Most of them were just there to watch the show. Gu Fei felt sorry for them. They had only just arrived and couldn't see anything. Murderer Gu Fei walked the streets as if there was no one else around. He didn't come to Little Ray's bar very often. Boss Little Ray was already quite familiar with this group of people. The main thing was that there were 2 guys among the 6 who would definitely have an unforgettable memory. Seeing Gu Fei enter the door, Little Ray greeted him with a smile and pointed to their private room. Gu Fei walked over and lifted the curtain to take a look. These guys really kept their word. They said they wouldn't care about him and directly came over to drink. Now they really were here to toast. The 5 looked up and saw Gu Fei. Han family young master looked at the time. 6 minutes. Sorry, I won. Sword Demon said expressionlessly and reached out his hand to the table. The other 4 helplessly reached into their pockets and each took out 5 gold coins, throwing them on the table. Sword Demon mercilessly put them all into his pocket and then reached out to Yutian. "No, you should have 10. Hey, I was just joking. You took it seriously." Yutian Shenming was displeased. "Of course, you have to keep your word." Sword Demon extended his hand and didn't move. "Give it to him, or else we won't be able to drink anymore," Han family young master said. Yutian Shenming reluctantly took out another 5 gold coins and gave them to the Sword Demon. After settling the accounts, the 5 of them began to pay attention to Gu Fei. The Han family young master took the lead to applaud. "Welcome, welcome, welcome our number 1 killer." Gu Fei watched as the Sword Demon filled his pockets with gold coins and asked, "What are you doing?" "Nothing, we're just estimating the time you'll need to break out of the encirclement." Han family young master said. "Bet? Sword Demon won?" Gu Fei said as he sat down. Sword Demon nodded. "Then you should give me half." Gu Fei smiled. The Sword Demon nodded again and took out gold coins from his pocket. He carefully counted 12, then counted 50 silver coins and pushed them in front of Gu Fei. "Half each." Gu Fei was stunned. He was just joking. The Han family young master looked up at the sky and sighed. "Take it. Next time, remember not to joke with people who lack humor." Sword Demon was very serious. Even if you didn't say it, I would have given you half." Gu Fei laughed dryly. Thanks. Then he put the money into his pocket. Yutian Shenming's face was full of pain. How is it? What's the situation with the non-smiler now? Han family young master asked Gu Fei. I don't know. I came over after breaking out of the encirclement. Do you want me to go back and talk to him? There are quite a lot of people over there. Gu Fei said. Yutian Shenming nodded. The people who went to Cloud Valley were all called back? Did the non-smilers say anything in the guild channel? Han family young master asked Yutian Shenming. Yutian Shenming stared at the chat log in the guild channel. Everyone is asking him what happened and who the other party is, but the non-smiler hasn't said anything. He said something. Yutian Shenming suddenly said. What did he say? Brothers, avenge me. Yutian Shenming read to everyone. Everyone looked at each other. This guy is so fucking hard to deal with. Han family young master sighed. However, if he stays with us and doesn't pester the purple crystal of rebirth, our mission will be considered complete, brother, you said. That's impossible. He doesn't even know who we are. How can he fight with us? In the end, he can only take it out on the reborn amethyst. Han family young master said. I think we've made a mistake from the start. Gu Fei said. When did the non-smiler and July wildfire happen? This guy is petty enough to hold a grudge until now. And wasn't he in the wrong first? Now he's the one who jumped out to provoke us. He's thick-skinned enough. He's been killed 4 times and he's still shouting, brothers, avenge me. He's really vengeful. This kind of person, as long as he stays in the game, he'll be a scourge sooner or later. Once he finds the chance, he'll jump out and bite you. Then what do you think we should do? Get him out of the game? No matter how strong we are, we can't do that. Han family young master said. Gu Fei was about to speak, but brother, you spoke first. Let's look at the situation first before making a decision. Brother, you said. Everyone nodded in agreement. Gu Fei swallowed the words he wanted to say. At the same time, the entire Cloud City and its surrounding areas were talking about this big event. With Qianli's voice transmission function in the chat channel, the news spread faster than ever. Ever since the game was released, there had never been a PK incident that shocked the entire guild. And today, the largest guild in Cloud City, for Seas, ran from Cloud City to Cloud Valley, and from Cloud Valley back to the Rogue Guild in Cloud City. News from the Cloudy Fruit Farm stated that in the middle of the main road, Unsmiler, who had dominated the 4 Seas, was passing by. Suddenly, a thief appeared from stealth. His face was covered with a black cloth, and with 2 swishes he killed Unsmiler. Then he left. Another witness from the Rogue Guild in Cloud City said that there was a man with a black cloth covering his face, holding a knife, who hacked 4 Seas to death in front of the guild's entrance. Then he went for a stroll, turned around and hacked 4 Seas again, then broke through the encirclement of several people and left. After that, there were people who analyzed the time when 4 Seas was killed in the 2 locations, and found that there was a continuity. Combined with the mysterious black cloth covering both of their faces, they came to the conclusion this was a very organized and premeditated assassination aimed specifically at 4 Seas. 4 Seas was an old ID, and many people were familiar with this name. Very quickly, some people connected it to the case from before. But after searching July Wildfire in the game, they found that it was still an unclaimed ID. Although some people still believed that July Wildfire was pulling the strings behind the scenes, they couldn't interview her, so there was no proof. This matter caused an uproar all over the city. How could the reincarnated Amethyst girls not know about it? July called the girls back to the guild office at the first instance. Originally, apart from Luoluo, the other girls didn't know about this matter, and they had to go back to what happened in the game. But now, the matter had expanded to the point where it couldn't be hidden. Just saying that it was because of the conflict during the mission that caused hatred? Other than Little Rain, no one would believe it. After July explained the whole story to everyone, she immediately received the unanimous support of the girls. After all, July didn't intend to have any entanglement with the other party. It was 4 Seas who provoked and caused trouble first. Even the mild-tempered girls couldn't tolerate such a bitch. For example, the hot-tempered Fiercely had already kicked a bench, indicating that he wanted to rush out and finish 4 Seas off again. Then, of course, he was held back by the girls. July said solemnly to everyone, because the other party's strength is obviously much stronger than ours, we've asked for help this time. What happened in Cloud City just now was probably done by them. But based on my understanding of 4Cs, killing him a few times like this probably won't scare him, so this matter is far from over. Everyone be careful outside. It's best, don't go online for a few days. Sister July, hiding isn't the way to go, we should also fight. A girl said. But, Sister July, don't worry about us, it's a game. PK is also a part of the game. It's not like we want to be kings or anything. Won't we just drop a few levels if we die? What's there to be afraid of? Yeah. Everyone, don't argue. Luo stood up and said, dying and dropping levels isn't something to be afraid of, but the problem is that we can't die in vain. Reigning the 4Cs is the largest guild in Cloud City, with a total of 300 members. Just the level 30 players alone are more than our guild members. So this will be a very high-level PK battle. Who thinks that they can play a role in this PK? No one said anything. Even Fiercely, who was in the limelight in this PK simulation, didn't say anything. She didn't think much of it in her heart, but if she opened her mouth now, it was obvious that she wasn't giving Luo a way out. Although she was a hot-tempered person, a girl's mind was still meticulous. Seeing that no one said anything, Luo continued, so, everyone listen to July. Be careful and hide if you can. The rest of the matter, leave it to July, me, Fiercely, Little Rain, and the people we found to help. What do you guys think? The girls all nodded. They didn't have any objections to Lolua's suggestion of 4 people. July was definitely going to participate no matter what, and Luo was the highest level cleric among the girls. Fiercely was the best at PK, and Little Rain was the highest level one. But when it came to the highest level, Little Rain weakly asked, aren't we going to call Qianli? Before Fiercely said impatiently, he's a trash mage, what's the point of having a high level? July also nodded, let's not bother him. Let's go. Luo said, I'll say hello to the other side, we'll go meet up first. The 4 girls said as they walked out the door. Just as they reached the entrance of the street, they saw a black crowd in front of them. They had already been blocked by someone, and the person leading them was Non-Smiler, Little 7, long time no see. Chapter 48. The 4 girls immediately wanted to turn back, but they found that someone had already come over from the other end of the street to block their retreat. July quickly sent a message in the guild channel. Everyone, stay in the room and don't come out. The girls all asked what was going on, but July only replied, listen to me. Looking back, the group of people blocking the way was moving forward. Whether it was intentional or not, they stopped in front of the entrance of Amethyst's guild. July's heart was in her throat, and she quickly reminded them in the guild channel not to come out. The girls were very obedient, hiding in the room and not moving. July finally let out a sigh of relief. One end of the street had already been blocked. Although this side was a relatively open intersection, the number of people that Non-Smilers had brought was not small. In addition, the crowd of onlookers had curiously gathered to fill the gaps, forming an impenetrable encirclement. With the strength of the 4 of them, it was impossible for them to break out. What do you want? July could only talk to the person she didn't even want to see. What? Non-Smiler asked, then laughed strangely, don't think that I don't know that you sent people to deal with me. But I won't hold this against you. Tell me who they are and we'll write it off. July laughed coldly, isn't it enough to be tricked by you once? Do you think I'll believe your nonsense a second time? Non-Smiler's smile became a little uncomfortable, I'm telling the truth this time. July shook her head and sighed, you can still laugh so freely after being killed 4 times. You're really an actor. Unsmiler's expression stiffened. Chiyue's words had clearly poked at his sore spot. In an instant, Unsmiler lost some of his patience. Raising his voice by an octave, he threatened, if you don't tell me who they are, I can only blame it on you. Alright, you want me to drop 4 levels too? July said with a smile. Non-Smiler was once again speechless. Before he could retort, July added, I'm not level 30 yet. Even if I drop a level, it won't be a big loss. Non-Smiler's face turned green again. These words were not false at all. Due to the sudden increase in experience from level 30 onwards, Unsmiler had only dropped from level 30 to level 29, but the loss of experience was already enormous. He was one of the top players on the leaderboards and had accumulated quite a lot of experience when he was level 30. Currently, he had dropped from level 30 to level 26. Just these 4 levels alone could be said to have consumed half of his efforts since he entered the game. How could a non-Smiler not be enraged? From his body to his spirit, Non-Smiler had been suffering from constant devastation. He really needed a breakthrough to vent. At this time, he gritted his teeth and said, "All right. Since that's the case, I'll let you drop 4 levels first. The 4 of you, 1 level each." One of the people in the crowd wanted to rush into the arena, but he was stopped by someone beside him. "What are you doing?" Gu Fei turned to look at the Han family young master. Just as July and Non-Smiler were exchanging words, Luo Luo had already sent a signal to the Han family young master. Little Ray Bar was very close to the street. The 6 of them quickly arrived at the scene and squeezed in with the other people to watch the show. Seeing that both sides were at odds with each other and that Non-Smiler was about to make a killing move, Gu Fei was determined to enter the arena to help, but he was resolutely stopped by the Han family young master. "It's useless even if you go." The Han family young master sent a message to Gu Fei. "They have too many people. Even if you go, you'll just be throwing your life away. What's the point?" "What do you have in mind?" asked Gu Fei. Just like that girl said, if they die, the loss is not great. Fuck. Gu Fei broke away from the Han family young master's hand that was holding him. "This isn't math." Gu Fei squeezed out of the crowd after saying this. In the arena, Non-Smiler waved his hand, and raining the 4 Cs rushed out, surrounding July and the others in the middle. They were waiting for Non-Smiler to give the order, and then they would make a killing move. "I'll give you one chance to back out. I'm sure you don't want to see your sisters die with you, right?" Non-Smiler sneered with confidence. Compared to Chiyue who understood him, he understood Chiyue better. "Go to hell. You despicable, shameless, and dirty thing." Someone answered before July could, and it was the bad-tempered Fiercely. Towards Non-Smiler's face, she despised him from the bottom of her heart. After quickly answering, she attacked even faster. With a stomp of her feet, she charged diagonally. It was the Grandmaster of Combat level 24 skill, Galloping Meteor, which she had used on Gu Fei that day. She increased her speed and attacked, all the way to Non-Smiler. "Fiercely!" July shouted from behind. Luoluo also hurriedly cast a healing spell on Fiercely. Just as she rushed out, another person from the crowd beside Non-Smiler also rushed out. The same posture, the same move, Galloping Meteor. The 2 Grandmaster of Combat's moves collided, and the outcome was determined by the strength and speed of both sides. Fiercely was obviously not a match for her opponent. She, who had rushed out, was knocked back by the opponent's Galloping Meteor. Galloping Meteor had the effect of sprinting. When Fiercely flew back, July and the other 2 who had come forward to support her were also injured. Non-Smiler laughed coldly. Just as he was about to order everyone to start killing, someone suddenly squeezed out of the crowd and stood in the middle of the arena. He asked suspiciously, "What's going on? Why are there so many people? What's going on? Why did Qianli rush out?" In the mercenary channel of the elite group, Sword Demon and the others asked one after another. "Because this isn't a math problem." Han family young master replied in a bad mood, causing everyone to be at a loss. "Everyone get ready for battle. Yutian, find a place to ambush and prepare to snipe. Sword Demon, you cover your face and hide. Wu Shang, how long can you keep using Whirlwind Slash? Brother Yu, who is this Grandmaster of Combat from reigning the 4 Seas?" Han family young master asked in succession. Feng Xing, one of the 4 cores of reigning the 4 Seas. Brother Yu replied, "The scene is getting bigger and bigger. Everyone get ready. If Qianli gets the chance, everyone immediately support him." Han family young master said. "What if he doesn't get the chance?" Yutian Shenming asked. "Then go back and continue drinking." Han family young master said. Everyone, Gu Fei, who had squeezed into the crowd, attracted the attention of many people. July and the others looked at him in surprise. Xiao Yu was about to call out when July grabbed her. Xiao Yu shook her head. Xiao Yu didn't know what was going on, but she still obediently shut her mouth. What's going on? What's going on? Why are there so many people? Can we still go over? Gu Fei pretended to be ignorant as he looked into the distance. Friend, please make way. Nolaf said. I want to go over. Gu Fei pointed to the other side of the street. Let's go somewhere else. We have something to do here. Nolaf said. What's the matter? Gu Fei's face was full of curiosity. But how could Nolaf explain this? Could he start from the grudge in the online game from an years ago? Of course, he didn't have the patience. He immediately released his aura and said arrogantly, Haven't you heard of reigning the 4 seas? We have something to do here. You can go around. Or wait on the side. Oh, then I'll wait. Gu Fei retreated, crossed his arms in front of his chest, and stood beside Nolaf. Everyone's eyes were once again focused on him. There's a chance. Sword Demon said in the mercenary channel. There's no chance. At most, he'll strike Nolaf once more. What's the use of this situation? Han family young master didn't think much of it. Keep your voice down. Qianli can see what you say in the mercenary channel. Be careful that he doesn't strike you when he comes back. Yutian Shenming said. I'm afraid of him. Han family young master said this, but his heart suddenly felt a little scared. If Gu Fei's broken knife came to greet him, he really didn't know how to deal with it. Nolaf looked at Gu Fei, who was standing next to him carelessly, and finally smiled helplessly. He waved his hand at everyone and said, Don't worry about him. Everyone do it. Do it, do it. Gu Fei also waved his hand, but he made a turn midway, and 2 fingers suddenly stabbed towards Nolaf's eyes. Even if he waved his fingers in front of his eyes normally, he would feel an inexplicable panic, let alone right now when Gu Fei was stabbing at his eyes with such vigor. Nolaf panicked, and subconsciously lowered his head and raised his arm to block. A trace of a sympathetic smile flashed across Gu Fei's lips. He opened his 5 fingers, grabbed Nolaf's wrist, and twisted it backwards. Nolaf's 5 fingers couldn't help but open up freely, and the dagger in his hand fell downwards in a very physical way. Gu Fei's other hand had already caught it, and then he let go of Nolaf. In a flash, he had already retreated to the foot of the wall. Everything happened in the blink of an eye, and even Nolaf himself only realized after 5 seconds that the dagger in his hand had disappeared. Gu Fei leaned against the wall, holding Nolaf's dagger and appraising it. Wind Whisper, its attack isn't low. Agility plus 18, attack speed plus 10%, thief skill vanish, skill cooldown 15 minutes, not bad. Let me try. Oh, class doesn't match, so it can only be used by thieves. Gu Fei said regretfully. The Han family young master and the others who were watching from the crowd were relieved. It turned out that the vanish skill that Nolaf suddenly used wasn't a skill scroll, but an additional skill on his dagger. Before players reached the level where they could learn the vanish skill, this dagger could be said to have a very high value. And considering the difficulty of leveling up in this parallel world, this kind of value could obviously last for a very long time. For such an exquisite dagger to be snatched away by Gu Fei just like that, Nolaf for a moment couldn't believe it was real. Do you still want the dagger? If you do, hurry up and tell them to stop. Gu Fei glanced over there. July's group of 4 was surrounded, and the situation was already worrying. Stop, stop, stop for a moment. Nolaf hurriedly shouted. The people over there stopped and looked back blankly. As soon as they heard Nolaf's order, they rushed forward to fight, and didn't notice that at the same time, Nolaf's dagger had also been snatched away by the person beside him who was also shouting attack. Nolaf's face was ashen. Gu Fei played with the dagger in his hand, his expression satisfied. Tell your people to disperse, I'll return the dagger to you immediately. Nolaf hesitated. Would someone really give up on such an exquisite equipment so easily after obtaining it? Although it was a little hard to believe, there was really nothing he could do. Washing people clean, that would only give them some mental stimulation. Losing the equipment was an incalculable loss. After all, material civilization was the foundation of spiritual civilization. Chapter 49. The non-smiler glanced at Feng Xing, one of the 4 core members of reigning the 4 seas. Feng Xing seemed to support the non-smiler's idea of prioritizing equipment, and nodded at him. The non-smiler raised his hand. Everyone, step back. The reigning player stepped back, and Gu Fei pursed his lips. Tell them to leave first. The non-smiler nodded without hesitation. After all, it was much easier to find Qiyue and the others in the game than to get an exquisite dagger. Let's go together. Xiao Yu came over to pull Gu Fei. Gu Fei smiled, but before he could say anything, the non-smiler had already yelled, "He's not allowed to leave." Gu Fei nodded and said to the 4 girls, "You guys go first." The players from Reigning the Seas parted to form a path for them. Gu Fei gave Little Rain a gentle push and said, "Go." The 4 girls began to walk out of the crowd, and Xiao Yu looked back from time to time. "Go straight to the safe zone." Gu Fei sent her a message and then quietly stood in place, waiting for news. "Have you gone far enough? Can you return my dagger now?" The non-smiler could see through Gu Fei's thoughts, so he didn't rush him. Gu Fei smiled again. "If I return your dagger, can I leave?" "Of course." The non-smiler replied without hesitation. Gu Fei smiled again. "No." The non-smiler was furious. "Lying won't end well." Gu Fei smiled from ear to ear. The non-smiler froze, and then said angrily, "Fuck, there's a spy." Just now, Yu Tianxinming had revealed to Gu Fei that the non-smiler had already given the order in the guild to kill Gu Fei as soon as he got the dagger back. He had also hidden people in the Mage Academy, swearing to kill Gu Fei. Gu Fei immediately changed his original intention and decided not to return the dagger to the non-smiler. Giving the non-smiler a taste of his own medicine had always been Gu Fei's support. Since the lie had been exposed, there was no point in pretending to be a good cop if he didn't laugh. When he was still dreaming about his dagger, Feng Xing had already made up his mind for him. "Kill him. Don't stop until he releases the wind's secret word." Feng Xing gave a resonant growl, while another punch had already swooshed towards Jihao. Gu Fei did not panic. He did not dodge or evade. He raised his arm and stabbed out with his staff. Feng Xing moved fast, but Gu Fei raised his arm even faster. As a result, it looked like Gu Fei had raised his stick and waited for Feng Xing, while Feng Xing puffed out his chest and bumped right into it. This move launched by Gu Fei was quite skillful as well. He aimed at Feng Xing's acupoints. Normally, with Gu Fei's power, attacking the acupoints of others wouldn't be too effective. However, at this moment, things were different. Feng Xing bumped right into Gu Fei's body, and as a result, Gu Fei's arms weren't strong enough to withstand Feng Xing's attack and were sent flying away, while half of Feng Xing's body was numb and sore. This was the common sense of physics. Forces were mutual. However, ordinary people didn't have the accuracy of Gu Fei's attacks, and they didn't know where the acupoints were. It was impossible for them to use this common sense of physics. The players of the 4 seas were dumbfounded as they watched Gu Fei, a magician, defeat the 6th-ranked Grandmaster of Combat in this parallel world with one strike. They didn't know what to do. Not Laughing was worried about his dagger, and couldn't care less about Feng Xing's life. He yelled at the top of his lungs, "What are you waiting for? Go." At this moment, a sweet voice came from above Gu Fei's head, "Give me your hand." The houses in the game weren't flat roofs, but roofs with tiles. At this moment, half of a pretty face could be seen from the roof. Compared to the red and black tiles, it was really beautiful. An arm was hanging down from the roof, waving at Gu Fei. Everyone was stunned. Only Gu Fei didn't seem surprised at all. He raised his hand and jumped, connecting with his opponent's arm. His opponent swung her arm upwards, and Gu Fei used his leg to borrow some strength from the wall. The two complemented each other perfectly. Gu Fei flew up the wall like a falcon. "You're quite strong." Gu Fei laughed. If this was in real life, how many girls would be able to pull someone up the wall so easily? "You're pretty agile too." Shi Xiaodian helped Gu Fei up from the roof. From below, Gu Fei looked like he was flying, but in reality, his strength was lacking when he was in midair. It took everything he had not to fall off halfway, and naturally, he didn't care how he looked when he landed on the roof. Let's go. Shi Xiaotian had already taken the lead. Gu Fei looked down and saw a non-smiler instructing the players of reigning the 4 seas to build a human ladder, find tools, and find stepping stones to help them get up to the roof. After making eye contact with the Han family young master and the others who were still mixed in the crowd, Gu Fei also sprinted up the roof. Shi Xiaotian's familiarity with the situation on the roof was beyond Gu Fei's expectations. She knew which places to go up, which places to go down, and which places to jump to the opposite roof like the back of her hand. From the looks of it, she was trained. She probably used these places to escape. The screams of the players of reigning the 4 seas were soon left far behind. Shi Xiaotian led Gu Fei around the rooftops and finally reached the clock tower of Cloud City. Once they reached the roof, it was the highest point in Cloud City. From here, Gu Fei could clearly see the players of reigning the 4 seas weaving through the streets of Cloud City. He couldn't help but laugh. You can still laugh? Shi Xiaotian said from behind. Why? In the future, reigning the 4 seas will definitely come looking for trouble with you. Shi Xiaotian said. If that's the case, I'm afraid you'll only have more trouble than me, right? Gu Fei laughed. Shi Xiaotian shook his head. I'm not as afraid of trouble as you think I am. Levels and the like aren't important to me. So, even if I get chased down and killed, it's no big deal. Besides, when it comes to dealing with trouble, I'm much more professional than you are. Of course, practice makes perfect, Gu Fei said sarcastically. I'm a professional swindler. There are amateurs among swindlers? Gu Fei interrupted with a smile. Shi Xiaotian didn't pay attention to this question. Like Gu Fei, he looked at the running crowd in the city and said, professional swindlers have their own rules. Among our swindlers, there is absolutely no way to deceive the feelings of others. We use people's greed to set bait and lure the fish. This is our method. You mean the person who deceives the feelings of others, the non-smiler? Shi Xiaotian nodded. It said that not long after July was tricked into leaving the game, the non-smiler was tricked into losing everything. This person, was it you? Gu Fei asked. Shi Xiaotian nodded again. Gu Fei let out a long sigh. Was it July who asked you for help? Shi Xiaotian shook his head. No, I didn't even know her at that time. I went on my own. Even to this day, she only has a slight suspicion that I was the one who did it. I have never said a word about it. Then why did you still go? Gu Fei was puzzled. Shi Xiaoan was silent for a long time before he finally said, it's a hobby. Hobby? Gu Fei was confused. I like swindling, Shi Xiaotian said. For me, it's as fascinating as an art. Your hobby is really unique. Gu Fei laughed dryly. Unfortunately, my hobby can't be used in real life, so I can only enjoy it in the game, Shi Xiaotian said. What did you say? Gu Fei, who had been relatively indifferent, suddenly turned to look at Shi Xiaotian. What? Do you think I should go around swindling people in real life? Shi Xiaotian asked. You can't even do it in the game. A wry smile appeared on Shi Xiaotian's face. You won't understand how depressing it feels to have something you love but have nowhere to use it? Gu Fei was depressed. How could he not understand? However, Shi Xiaotian's swindling was a swindling that harmed the world, while his was a cultural heritage that needed to be further developed. How could the two be compared? Gu Fei kept shaking his head. Why are you shaking your head? Shi Xiaotian asked. Nothing. It's just that the feeling you mentioned, I might have a little. I can understand a little. Gu Fei firmly believed that the feeling of not being able to use swindling and not being able to use kung fu were different, so he could only slightly feel a little. Obviously, Shi Xiaotian didn't even believe a little of his words, so he just shook his head. In any case, because of this slightly similar feeling, Gu Fei's bad impression of Shi Xiaotian changed a little. At this time, in Gu Fei's heart, he couldn't help but feel that they were both in the same boat, which would make him beat himself up. This kind of thinking is too dangerous. How can I be reduced to the same level as a swindler? Alright, I have to go. Anyway, Thank you very much for today. Gu Fei felt that it was better to stay away from the swindler as soon as possible. If he stayed here any longer, his mind would be corrupted. Gu Fei, who had always been calm and confident, actually looked like he was running away when he left. He went down the bell tower and looked up. Shi Xiaotian was still standing in the same place, looking down. Gu Fei waved at her and chose a street to walk in. Getting away from his corrupted thoughts, Gu Fei still had business to attend to. Finding an empty corner, Gu Fei put on the black cloth, put on his straw hat, put away his staff, and took out the baptism of flames. When Gu Fei received the information that Yu Tianxinming had revealed, he had already decided that he would not let this scoundrel off easily. In the mercenary channel, the Han family young master and the others were shouting and asking Gu Fei where he was going. Gu Fei calmly replied, "Don't worry about me, where is the non-smiler? Why are you looking for him?" Han family young master asked. "Kill him." Gu Fei's answer was simple and to the point. Chapter 50. Non-smiler ran around Cloud City like a madman. In just an hour, he had lost 4 levels, and now he had lost his most powerful weapon. Non-smiler's pain was the greatest among all the players in the game. When he commanded the guild members to climb up to the roof, Gu Fei and Shi Xiaotian had already skipped far away. Non-smiler only cared about yelling, "Chase them! Chase them!" The guild members ran around like headless flies. Quite a few people lost their patience after scurrying around. Some of them actually scurried out of Cloud Peak City to level up. Some of them casually accepted a quest and went back to work. There were also some who directly ran into the safe zone, saying that they had something to do and quickly logged off. In the end, it was just a game. Although non-smiler was the core of the guild, everything had to be based on benefits. Before the guild members had tasted any sweetness, even the core members wouldn't be so unconditionally obedient. Previously, it was just because this was a guild activity that they had to participate in. That was why they came with the mentality of helping. But now, after a long time without any results, no one was willing to waste their time like this, except for non-smiler's few best friends. Non-smiler led these few best friends to search for Gu Fei through the streets and alleys, constantly asking others in the guild channel if they had found anything. At first, there were people who replied no, but later on, they were too lazy to care about him, except for some kind-hearted people who had bad intentions. "I saw that guy on Shell Street. I'm following him." Yu Tianxinming shouted. "Keep an eye on him, we'll be there soon." Non-smiler led the others and ran like crazy, but after a while, Yu Tianxinming would immediately shout, he turned a corner and disappeared. Non-smiler ran for nothing. This repeated 4 times, and non-smiler went crazy. "What the fuck are you doing?" Yu Tianxinming said mysteriously. "I think he has his eyes on me, otherwise why do I always see him everywhere I go?" Non-smiler felt like vomiting blood. Looking at the few best friends who were still following him, he wanted to cry, but there were no tears. Suddenly, he felt a patch of darkness above his head. He looked up and saw a figure flying down from the roof. He held a saber in his hand high up in the sky. Under the sunlight, the saber was a little dazzling. The tattered straw hat, the black cloth that covered his eyes, the long robe that fluttered in the wind, non-laughing only had time to shout, "Ah!" After giving the non-smiler a head-on blow, Gu Fei landed on the ground. Then he spun 2 steps on the spot, and 2 more blades spun on the non-smiler's body. Fire magic was activated, and in the midst of the flames, the non-smiler disappeared. Gu Fei strode off into the distance. It was only then that the few buddies of the non-smilers came to their senses, shouting and chasing after Gu Fei. Once again returning to the Thieves' Guild, non-smiler was sobbing in the guild channel. The guild members were numb to it. Come to think of it, the current level of non-smiler was level 25. In reigning the 4 seas, he could be counted as one of the last few. Apart from that, he had also lost his exquisite dagger. Core member? In this early age where one needed to rely on strength and not connections to become a core member, most of the members only had one word in their minds: bah. After all, this was a new game. A new guild couldn't form a strong cohesiveness in such a short amount of time. The reason they were able to organize such a large operation before was mostly because of the habits they had developed in the previous game. As soon as they saw that the guild was in trouble, they quickly rushed over to help. After causing such a ruckus for so long, that bit of inertia had already disappeared. Everyone reconsidered their values and benefits, whether or not it was worth it to help this level 25 non-smiler. The answer was obviously no. But not everyone thought this way. The other 3 core members of the guild felt that this matter had greatly hurt the reputation of reigning the 4 seas. They were the #1 guild in Cloud City. They were prepared to make a name for themselves in the game. It hadn't even been a few days, and one of the core members of the guild had been killed like this. Wouldn't they become a laughing stock in the outside world? The 3 of them couldn't take this lying down, but this was mainly from the perspective of the guild. As for Non-Smiler, it was purely because of his high level and good equipment that they had recruited him into the guild. They hadn't had the time to build a deep friendship. In the end, the 3 core members came to a decision. They had to make an appearance. Otherwise, wouldn't reigning the 4 seas be looked down upon by others? At this time, news of Non-Smiler's 6th death had arrived. Non-Smiler, who had been crying in the safe zone for a long time, saw that there didn't seem to be any reaction from the guild, so he cursed the fickleness of human nature. At this time, he received news from a few of his best friends. They said that the masked guy was being chased closely by them and that he hadn't been able to shake them off. Non-Smiler was overjoyed. He rushed out of the safe zone and ran in the direction of the news, wanting to give Gu Fei a perfect interception. In the end, although he tried to stop him, he couldn't. Gu Fei, who was striding towards him, kicked him to the ground, and then stabbed him twice with his sword to end his life. Non-Smiler's level dropped to 24. After receiving this news, the 3 core members of reigning the 4 seas could no longer sit still. They had to take action. After all, reigning the 4 seas was founded by the 3 of them. Their rallying power in the guild was much stronger than Non-Smiler's. Previously, it was Feng Xing, the Grandmaster of Combat, who had raised his arm in the guild and rallied hundreds of guild members valiantly and energetically through the Cloud Crop Farm and into the Cloud Valley. They thought that this matter could be easily resolved, but who would have thought that it would become so troublesome? Up until now, the 3 of them still hadn't figured out the whole story. They only heard that the person who had been attacking Non-Smiler and the person who had just snatched his dagger were not the same person. Just as the 3 of them were about to take action, they suddenly received a message from the guild leader of Amethyst, July. She wanted to talk to the 3 of them face to face. Reflection: go and organize some people. Feng Xing and I will go meet her. Another core member of reigning the 4 seas, who was also the guild leader, Unsworn Sword, said. Not long after, the 2 parties met at the agreed-upon place, Little Ray's Bar. In the entire Cloud City, only Little Ray's Bar had a private room, so it was more convenient to talk. July, Luoluo, Fiercely, and Little Rain came straight after leaving the safe zone, while Unsworn Sword and Feng Xing came alone. Before this, Feng Xing had already fought against the 4 girls, and had even exchanged a punch with Lai Lai. Which one of you is guild leader July? Unsworn Sword asked after sitting down. I am. July said, wait a moment, we still have a friend who hasn't come yet. As they were talking, Gu Fei rushed in, lifted the curtain and shouted, sorry I'm late. Since he was going to attack someone, he also had to come over to participate in the negotiation. Today, Gu Fei was quite busy. As Gu Fei walked in, Unsworn Sword received a message. Non-Smiler had been killed for the 7th time, and was currently level 23. Unsworn Sword didn't have the time to deal with it. He looked at Gu Fei and asked, this is? He had heard that Amethyst was an all-girls guild, so he obviously didn't know about Gu Fei. Feng Xing immediately introduced Gu Fei to him, emphasizing that this was the guy who snatched Non-Smiler's dagger. Unsworn Sword was in awe. No matter what, someone who could directly snatch a top-tier equipment from someone's hands was a ruthless character. Unsworn Sword sheathed his sword. Because they were going to negotiate, the 4 girls sat together on the left side, leaving the right side for the other 2. When Gu Fei arrived, there were no more seats on his side, so he had no choice but to sit in the middle, facing the door. Those who didn't know would think that Gu Fei was hosting a meeting. How much do you know about today's matter, guild leader unsworn? July began. Well, I only know that our brother, Non-Smiler, was killed 7 times in a row. His top-tier dagger, Wind Whisper, was also stolen. The cause of this matter seems to be because of a bit of your past with him, guild leader July? Unsworn Sword said. Then, yesterday, during our guild mission, you guys deliberately caused trouble and killed 12 of our girls. Does guild leader Unsworn know about this? July asked. I don't know. Unsworn Sword was at a loss, turning his head to look at Feng Xing. Yesterday, Non-Smiler seemed to have called people to PK with him in the guild. I asked him what was going on, and he said it was nothing, just a small matter, just a few brothers would be enough. After that, a few of them had nothing to do and went with him. Most importantly, he and his few friends. Said Feng Xing. Now, guild leader Unsworn, you know the cause of this matter. July said. Guild leader July, what do you mean? Unsworn Sword asked. Nothing much, it's just a game, it's all about fighting and killing. PK happens every day. It's just that, this matter was really caused by my personal relationship with Non-Smiler. So, if your guild wants to stand up for Non-Smiler, please don't look for trouble with my sisters and this friend. July said as she pointed at Gu Fei. This friend seems to have stolen something from Non-Smiler. This? Unsworn Sword wanted to make a fuss about this matter, but unexpectedly, Gu Fei suddenly put his hand into his pocket, took out the wind code word, and threw it on the table. The thing is here, whoever wants it can take it. Everyone was shocked. Although this was a dagger that mages didn't have much use for, it could also be sold to thieves who needed it. It was definitely a great fortune. A fat piece of meat that was already in their mouths, would they really let it go so easily? After hearing Feng Xing talk about Gu Fei stealing the dagger, Unsworn Sword thought that this guy was quite brave, but looking at it now, it didn't seem like much. Was he already afraid before they even said anything? Unsworn Sword laughed in his heart, but Gu Fei had already stood up. You guys take the dagger back. As for Non-Smiler, I heard that he's still being chased by people. Looks like no one can save him now. Brother, a person like Non-Smiler doesn't deserve so many people to stand up for him. Just tell him that the condition for taking back the wind code word is for him to leave the guild. See what he will choose. I still have something to do, so I'll be leaving first. You guys talk. As he said this, Gu Fei walked out of the room, turned, walked past 3 rooms, and immediately entered another one. Where's the water I wanted? Hurry up and bring it over, I'm so tired. Gu Fei shouted as soon as he entered. Han family young master pushed a glass of water in front of him. Gu Fei picked up the glass of water and gulped it down, while Yutian Shenming said, Non-Smiler left the safe zone pretty quickly this time. Right now, he's leading a few people to curse and cry in the guild. Why didn't you say so earlier? Gu Fei threw down the glass and ran out. Non-Smiler really can't smile anymore. Han family young master mumbled, You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.